What's going on, everybody? Here we are. We're getting the show started here in just a moment. Is that music loud to you? No, it's loud to me. I remember. Whew, there we go. Sorry about that. I had the music cranked up in my ears. We're going to get the show started. Here I am. What's up, everybody? A few people in the chat now. We'll wait. Well, we won't wait, but as we continue here, people will trickle in, and then we can officially start the show. What's a big shout out to Sir Darren in the chat. We got Susie Cute in the chat. We got Shauna Vision in the chat over on X. What's up, X? And Andy J over on YouTube. All right, the text message has just been sent out. We got Patrick over on the Rumble. Hey there, Vlog Thief. Psalm 40, Sir Psalm 40's here. Okay, here we go. We're doing it. Of course, before we get things started, it occurred to me when I was doing Monday's show that I didn't read any text messages on Monday, and something just felt off. It just felt wrong. And so I'm going to do that while we listen to Feeding the Ducks, the world's best royalty-free stock music that comes with the streaming software. I love it. You love it. We can't get enough of Walking the Ducks. We'll listen to that just when we need a moment, when we need a moment to think, when we need a moment to contemplate the universe. Big shout out. Listen up for your area code here. 509 says, okay, Basil, that's a lie. I just got the text message alert, then went to watch, and it says you're live at 1:30. Yeah, time zones are tough. Timing the text message alert is tough, but I think I'm getting a little better. I used to send the text message right as we go live, but the problem is that some people, it takes the text, a while to arrive to their phone. And then, they're coming in late and they're upset because they got the text message and they miss out on something and, the whole thing. You get it. And so I've been trying to send it a little early, but here's the problem. The text message has the link to the Rumble Live. But if I send it out too early, people who are on it, they're like, ding, ding. Oh, that's Basil. Click, go. It brings them, they have to wait like a minute or two. I'm figuring it out. Thank you, 509, for everything that you've done for me. 614 says, while you're time traveling, can you fix some of the translation issues in the KJV? I want the lion and the lamb back. Yeah, that's a weird one, huh? Well, 614, why don't you call in today? We can talk about it. 859 says, I love talking about time travel. It will be a great show. I love talking about time travel too. It has been so long. Only the oldest of OG Canarians will remember back when I was podcasting in the garage and trying to make, Nikola Tesla free energy devices in the garage. I did a lot of talking about time travel. I also did a lot of writing about time travel. This is the oldest of old school possible thing that you could imagine. On our original website, the one that doesn't even exist anymore, there was a blog zone, and I had written out some pretty, well, if I do say so myself, pretty impressive treatises on time travel from the biblical perspective. And they're just gone. I don't know where they went. They're just gone. And it's very sad. And I like to do that again. I mean, in my mind, I have the idea, and I'll say this, I have been complimented on my writing before, okay? The problem is that my temperament is such that, like, if I'm gonna write anything of substance, it has to be in the moment of inspiration. I have to stop, drop, and roll and do it right away. And if I can't finish whatever it is in that first burst of energy, it's just never going to get done. It just sits there and never finishes. But goodness gracious, the amount of times that I have started what I thought would be the genius, life-changing literary work, and, I'd sit down and write 8 to 10 pages out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is I'm doing it. And then just never see them again. I'm sure you guys can relate. 253 texts and says, hit that like button, Framery. Yeah, hit that like button. That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, so we forget to encourage you to do that, but it helps us out quite a bit. 406 says, is missing time the same as time travel? Monica, that is a great question. It's so interesting. I say this every time. I should say this for the show. Well, I'll say it again once we really get started. I am just amazed by the way that God orchestrates Gonz's interest and his inspiration for Beyond the Verse, because as I say, I do not watch them ahead of time. And just whatever is coming, like whatever is in my mind, whatever I've been thinking about, whatever comes up on the day of, is just today. I was listening to a podcast I usually don't listen to, but I was just needed something playing. And they were talking about missing time. Have you ever missed time? I'm trying to think if I have. The thing about missing time is it's easy to forget unless somebody points it out to you. It takes a second individual to say, like, hey, where was your time? Or something. Maybe a clock also helps. All right. Couple more texts here. 580 says, woohoo, time travel. Zechariah 2 meets John, Revelation 11. Thank you very much. I'm going to save that. I'm going to click priority. That's a priority text. So maybe I can find it and bring it up later if it comes up. Just a couple more here. And yes, folks, you can get on this text message list. It's very easy, and we recommend you do it because, as you know, notifications only go out to about 10% of our followers when we go live or post something. Most of the time, they don't go out at all. We just recently got a couple YouTube channels back. We got Face Like the Sun back, and we got the old Canary Cry radio channel back, which is where we were first live streaming Canary Cry News Talk. And I don't know, we had some like 13,000 followers on that or something. And then that got banned. Face Like the Sun and Canary Cry Radio Channel both got banned the same week, within 6 days of each other. And we got the Canary Cry Radio Channel back. It's great. It's amazing. However, there was an automatic posting feature on our podcast host where when we put out a podcast, it would automatically take a thumbnail from that podcast, put the thumbnail over the audio, and post the audio on that Canary Cry radio channel. Well, we got the channel back. We forgot this was happening. So on the Canary Cry radio channel, the past week or so, it's been posting all of our podcasts with just a static thumbnail image, which is, we used to do that because we never did video, but boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, people over on the Canary Cry radio channel, they did not listen to me. They did not believe me. They did not listen to me, or they did not care about what I was saying when I said, follow our other channels, get on the newsletter, get on all these things. The system is out for us. The system is out for blood. We will disappear, and you will never see us again unless you join the text message program, you join the newsletter, you follow us on social, all those sorts of things. So these podcasts start getting posted on this channel that we just got back. And oh my gosh, the flood of people coming in being like, oh my gosh, I thought you quit in 2021. Where you been? You haven't been doing podcasts for 4 years and you're suddenly back? What's the deal? Oh, I hate this Basil guy. We figured out where all the Basil haters have been. The Basil haters have been subscribed to a channel that I told them that it would not survive. They did not listen to me. They did not join all the things. The channel got taken down. We disappeared. And the first thing they have to say when the channel is back is, oh my gosh, what is Gons doing joining with this goofball? I used to like Gons, but then who's this other guy? You know, people who clearly have no idea that Gons and I have been partners in crime since 2012. You know, it's just clueless people. Anyways, don't be like those people. Take out your phone right now. Text the word Canary to 740-3226. Here's a graphic for you. Text Canary, no exclamation points, no nothing like that, just the word, to 877-740-3226. Okay, not only will you get told when we go live, not only that, when our channels get destroyed, you will not be one of the foolish. I swear there's a proverb about these people, but you will not be one of the foolish ones who just think that we stopped and disappeared. And the best part is you can text us back at that number. That's why I'm reading all these texts. These are people who texted. I can't carry a text conversation with you because it's very expensive, but I read them on the show here, before the show at least, on this one. 304 says, hashtag methylene blue buyers club. That's pretty funny. That is funny. Thank you, 304. 423 says, Basil, have a great show. I'll catch you next week on the podcast version, unless Gons gets it out tomorrow. Yeah, you never know when he'll get this out. He's been good lately, so hopefully it gets out. 785 says, please go on a rant about the Melania bunny with feeding the ducks in the background. I will try to remember. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to copy this. We'll see if it comes up. It's going to need to come up naturally, okay? If it comes up naturally, I will go on a rant about Melania's elegant, symmetrical Easter bunny with walking the ducks in the background. I've made a note. We'll hope we get to it. Other than that, there we go. Okay, we got people coming in. We're going to start the show here in a moment. Kat says, God bless your conversations. Thank you, Kat. Somebody sent me an image. What is this image? New Pope in 2025. It looks like the Polymarket betting odds of a new Pope in 2025. Yeah, so it's very funny. As you could guess, they're looking at the graph, because these are bets. These are forget what they call them. They're like event contracts, which is legal betting on events, the future, whatever. And it's funny because they're sort of registered, almost like an investment product. Polymarket's the name of the sort of most famous one. I think Kalshi is the other one. And the graph here, yes. People were actually betting on if there would be a new pope in 2025. And it looks like around April 14th, the chances were at about 20%. And boy, oh boy, if you put in your bet on April 14th, the odds have now gone to 100. You could be a millionaire. There's $2.4 million in volume on this betting contract. That's incredible. Somebody's going to make $1 million. All right. There we go. We got some people coming into the chat here. But okay, we're going to get started here. Just a reminder, this is a call-in show. It doesn't work without people calling in. So you'll see in the description of this video, down in the description, put it right at the top. There's a link there. Copy, paste that link. That will bring you into the waiting room. You'll click a couple things, put your name in, whatever. It'll put you into the waiting room. In the waiting room, you can watch, you can listen, you're on the show. And then when it's time, I'll bring you up. So go ahead and do that. It's right there. Everybody can do it. Okay, we already have a couple people in the waiting room. That's excellent. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you to that caller who already put their vote in for when to take the calls after the Beyond the Verse. That's what we're going to do. I think that's a fair thing to do. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the show started. I'm going to put this graphic up right here. I'm going to play a little jingle, and then we can officially start the show. Here we go.
Called it. We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.
Hello, Mom. I'm doing the show. Just kidding. That was just me doing a pretend call because you're listening to Canary Clubhouse. Today, we are going to be premiering Gons, you know him, Face Like the Sun, his mini documentary on time travel in the Bible. Folks, we have been waiting for this one. It's also an excellent time to just take a little break here near the end of the week, as we've been absolutely flooded with one of the craziest news weeks that we've had in quite some time. And we're going to take some time to fellowship. We're going to do some call-ins. We're going to explore time travel in the Bible. And we're just generally going to be following wherever the Lord leads on this one here. So, big shout out to everybody who is in the chat. I see you. Thank you. Thank you. A big reminder to everybody. I now have put the call-in link in the description of the video. If you want to call in, I recommend not waiting until I tell you to call in, or until we start taking callers, because you click on that link or you copy paste that link, it'll bring you into the waiting room. There's already a couple people in the waiting room, so if you want to get in for a call today, which I hope you do, I'm not saying this to discourage you, I'm saying this to encourage you to jump in and chat with me. It's going to be a fun time because I want to chat with you. We're talking time travel or just whatever the Lord brings up. Big shout out to, who's this? Area code 304 just texted into the Canary Cry text message alert program. You should do that too. Go ahead, text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. 304 says, woohoo, another 304. Thought I was alone over here. Andy J. Yes, we've got a couple 304s who've texted recently. Yes, 304. The other 304 texted hashtag methylene blue buyers club, which is the funniest joke of the day so far. And there you go. Here's a question. Y'all should let me know what you think about this, because I was considering this. May 3rd, we have the North Carolina, South Carolina Canary Cry meetup in Cherryville, I think North Carolina, at Niha's Ice Cream. They're also going on a hike in the morning. Go to canarycrymeetups.com to get all the details, and get in contact with Dame Sarah if you'd like to do that. I technically have the ability to filter out our text message list to, I just find the area codes around North and South Carolina. I technically could do that, and I could send out a text message to everybody in that tri-state area or whatever, and let them know about the meetup. Because, you got to be listening to the right episode at the right time and not skip the stuff and, be paying attention. That's kind of the thing to hear about these meetups. And so I feel like it would be helpful if there's a meetup in my area to get a text message. But why don't you guys let me know what you think about that? Is that outside the bounds of the agreement of the text message list? If you're North and South Carolina, would you be upset? I guess technically, if you're listening to me right now and you're from North and South Carolina, you are getting reminded actively right now that the meetup is there. So I don't know if anybody has any opinions about whether or not you would appreciate a text message if there was a meetup in your area, probably your state. You should text me at 877-740-3226. 843 just texted and says, do it, Basil. It's okay. So there's one vote for notifying people if there's a meetup in their area. Tell me. Let me know. But more on that later. We are here explicitly to premiere and check out Gonza's new documentary, mini documentary, the Beyond the Verse series, where he's diving into scripture, doing some deeper research, going to the edges of scholastic and academic biblical research and seeing what's there. That has always been our bread and butter. And here we are in a version of the world which apparently has accepted what was formerly wackadoodle nonsense that people would never allow in their churches. It is some kind of mainstream in a version of that word. So the hope would be that we would not get burned at the stake for exploring things like this. But of course, things never go the way that we hope. But that's just sort of the fun part about life. It's the fun part. So much of the Bible is a treatise on what to do, how to think, what to feel, and how to interact with God when things happen that we don't expect, or things that we hope would happen do not happen. And of course, in our paradigm, this is when time travel would really come in handy. Something happens, you want it to be different, go back in time, change the course of events, maybe skip forward past some unpleasant experience. I don't know. Time travel is one of these ideas that really serves as kind of a cure-all for all the things going on in our life. We think we have all these regrets. We later find out we've made bad choices. We did not execute. We weren't responsible enough. Or if we had just done this one thing different, life could have been totally different. We could have saved this relationship. We could have done whatever. That is on the scale of human fantasy. The harnessing of time travel is the closest thing we would have to omnipotence. Because, of course, we'd have omniscience in a way, again, the sort of counterfeit version of omniscience, where we'd have the power to change things, go back, change things, do things differently. Omnipotence in that once we are freed from the bounds of time, we have the ability to gain knowledge that would otherwise be impossible for us to gain. Time travel is really this one, especially in sci-fi, if you're standing at the crossroads of sci-fi and God, time travel is such a potent, essential, I don't know what you'd call it, ability, possibility. It would be the closest thing, I think, to experiencing reality like God experiences reality, having the types of power over the things that happen in the world. Now, it would not be equal. God has many other powers that make him much more impressive. But I think time travel specifically holds such a specific and powerful grip on the human mind and, dare I say, the human heart, where if that can be figured out, then we can truly be as gods. And as we learn through the Tower of Babel, God said it himself. If we come together, put our minds to it, we can accomplish anything. Even recently, we had the White House science advisor come out with some quotes. We just covered this. I'm going to see if maybe I should pull it up here. Let me see if I can do it. White House executive, yes. Let's do this one. MSN. You know what I'm talking about. Many of you already know what I'm talking about, but I'll bring it here because this is technically a podcast, and we should, of course, always strive to bring our sources, because sources are good. It's good to have some sort of concrete ability to reference the things we're talking about. So here I am. I'm moving some pages around, of course, as always, opening up a web page on my computer. My computer's only now 9 years old. That's not too bad. Gonza's is much older. Here we go. I'm going to present this page, share the screen, this screen, share, go over here, close this. You guys already know what I'm talking about, but here it is. White House says it has tech that can manipulate time and space. A comment by the White House science advisor Michael Kratsios has gone viral after a speech in which he claimed U.S. technology can, quote, manipulate time and space, prompting online speculation. Why it matters, asks MSN. The viral interpretation of Kratsios' comments reflect a growing impact of social media in framing public understanding of government messaging. While the White House has not issued a formal clarification, the speech's words suggest that the phrase was metaphorical. This is great. I read actually a few of these articles. Some of the headlines said specifically, White House exec forced to post like retraction of manipulating time and space comment. You go in there and basically the article just says like, no, it was a metaphor. And I go, okay, show me the retraction. And they don't put it. There is no retraction. They haven't explained it. They haven't retracted it. They haven't done it at all. But of course, we see the mainstream building their own narrative on top of that. And you'll notice even this article itself is much more concerned with just making the statement that time travel isn't real. Why? Because the government, you get the point. Says, what to know? Katsios, director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, made a remark during a policy address at the Endless Frontiers retreat in Austin, Texas on April 14th. Quote, our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, causing things to grow and improve productivity, Kratsios said during prepared remarks published on the official White House website. Prepared remarks on the website. Of course, they come in and try to poo-poo it. While the statement was likely intended as aspirational language about technological process, it has since circulated widely online, with some interpreting comment literally. Then they take some time and share some social media posts. But even at the response, even if it was metaphorical, the response shows, even the use of the phrase harkens back to the fact that the possibility or reality of time travel is the most condensed, essential probability, quality, ability that would bring the human experience closer to the experience of God. We would be as like gods with time travel. And of course, I myself, being an enthusiastic time travel fantasizer, like the idea. Sounds fun, sounds great. Of course, for decades and decades, maybe even a century or two, the fictional representations, the stories we tell about time travel, always end with complication, always have unforeseen consequences, never turn out great. I mean, the movie might end fine, but it's fraught with troubles. And on one hand, I think there's a lot of logic in these representations. These are things to think about before we get the power. It's good to think about these things beforehand. But secondly, it does have a bit of a cope to it. Because if in our minds we believe that time travel could never happen, if we think it's impossible, it's an idea, it's a projection of the creative mind of man who is able to think outside the bounds of perceivable logic, and that's part of our creative ability given to us by God. As we are made in his image, we bear the breath of life. God breathed into us And with that came this gift of almost endless imaginary possibility. And to repeatedly and almost invariably, in the telling of a story that time travel might be real, to jam pack it with so many ways that it could and would and will go wrong, is sort of psychologically a little bit of medicine. You know, when we can't have something, it's good for us. Whether it's true or not, it is good for us to imagine how poorly it may have worked out. Now, I have lots of things that don't go great, especially the past 2 years. Those who have been with me have gotten to hear vague descriptions of how everything has gone wrong. And yet, I have an absolute knowing, an absolute faith that when things seem to go wrong in the physical, on my level of reality, based on my own perceptions of what I would prefer to happen, to stay absolutely rock solid on the knowledge that God, A, is in control, totally sovereign, B, is outside of time and space, looking at things in ways that just totally exceed my ability to comprehend. And with the faith and assumption that God is looking out for me, loves me, wants the best for me, things working out differently than I would like them to, my faith is placed entirely in the fact that things would be worse if they had gone my way. I don't know. There's no way to know. It is purely a mechanism of faith. It does, I will say, psychologically, it does protect me from ruminating and regretting that things outside of my control did not go my way. But instead of staying stuck and staying focused on the self, thinking I know exactly what could happen, thinking I know exactly what's best, thinking I know better than the sovereign creator of the universe, even just in a psychological sense, it is healthier to release myself from the prison of thinking I know best. And if things had gone my way, things would be way better. We just do not know this at all. In fact, it is part of the prison. It's part of the tyranny that man is stuck with thanks to the fall, which is in these times where we think we are as God, when we think we want to be as God, we are really imprisoning ourselves in our own inadequacy. It's like putting chains around your hands or sinking your feet into cement boots. It is a devastating death to us, to our spirit, to our mind, sometimes to our physical body, to trap ourselves, and we do it ourselves. It's a prison of our own making. In thinking we know how things should go, or they would be better if they had gone a different way. It is all part of the self-worship, the self-centered, the thinking so highly of ourselves to imagine that life would be perfect if we didn't miss the bus. Now, this is not some amazing new insight that nobody's ever heard before. You missed the bus, boo-hoo, you gotta walk, but the bus crashed. Hey, glad I didn't get on the bus. Thank you, Lord. Now, as those opportunities, as those things step up from missing the bus to losing a loved one to something, whatever the next one is, it simultaneously becomes harder and harder and harder to simply have faith and let go of that. It's harder to imagine that things could be worse than they are, and that is a limitation of us. It is our own limitation as human beings. And when it starts by recognizing that we are not God, which you think sounds simple, people would think that that sounds like a simple thing. It is maybe the most important and the most difficult thing for normal people to come to the conclusion of, is that they are not God, especially living in a culture like we do, where the worship of self, the prioritization of comfort and well-being, the assumption that our knowledge is greater than other people's. I mean, just think of politics. Politics, like everybody on X thinks that they're the smartest person, whatever it is. This is like the basic human sickness. Obviously, take it all the way back to the Garden of Eden. Our basic first flaw is thinking that we know best. It has been the downfall, not just of every great empire, not just of every great leader, but of every single human. It's the core downfall. And that's why time travel is the ultimate antidote to everything that ails us. At least that's what we think. I can't think of any other, call it what you will, science fiction, fantasy, or superpower, or whatever, that could solve so many problems as time travel. And that's why when the White House comes out and says, our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. There is such a yearning for that to be true. And it's funny because the science of it, as we get to know more about quantum science, quantum mechanics, and as we work through the logic of what that might mean, the more we learn about wave-particle duality, the more we learn about quantum entanglement, the more we learn about the weirder, smaller, tinier details about what constitutes reality. The whole time travel thing starts to actually not sound that crazy as a possibility. There's always a question of, like, could a physical body survive something like that? That's still a question. But I think it's interesting how science, at least what we are being told, what is theoretically being toyed with and discovered, is actually catching up to, like, a core principle of a fantasy or imaginary or whatever concept. We sit here, we talk about time travel. We've talked about time travel forever. And in a way, the more we talk about it, the more we think about it, the more science endeavors to discover something closer to this, again, imaginary concept, the more and more it begins to seem possible. Kind of parallels for Canarians for, how we started out exploring these things in 2012. And here we are 13 years later. And, like, so many of them have come true. We make the joke about how the simulation must be plugged right into the podcast because it's just over and over and over and over again. The things, the theories that two blabbermouths on the internet just kind of like to explore keep coming true. In a similar way, seems the more we endeavor, the more we talk about, the more we fantasize, the more we tell the stories of time travel, things get closer and closer. And we start to assume or suspect that the reality of it is closer than ever. And this White House comment about it is an example of that. Because, technically he didn't even mention time travel. He did say manipulate time and space. Technically, cooking a cheeseburger is manipulating time and space, if you think about it. The leaving distance annihilated comment is a little bit less like cooking a cheeseburger, but hey, what are you going to do? So I say all this to say that time travel is not just a fun topic to talk about. I personally believe, feel, theorize, whatever, that time travel is such a deeply rooted, almost as if it's just installed straight onto our operating system. Time travel is so deep within us, the yearning for it, the knowledge, even if we don't recognize it until now, the knowledge that time travel really is what separates God from man. There's a lot more, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying on a psychological level, if you could gain one power that could bring you as close to being God as possible, I think time travel would be it. And so when it's etched into the digital tablet of the internet on the White House website, I think it awakens. I mean, the fact that it's on the government website is so much bigger. Like, think about it. Talk about the Tower of Babel, right? There's a lot of theories about what might have been going on there. Time travel and teleportation has been some people's theories, but whatever it is, even just take it for the story. The technology of the time was not just a tower. That wasn't the technology. There's also the technology of being able to build the tower. It was a big tower. It was like before anything. Even their ability to come together and build the tower in a way with the architectural, whatever, expertise that it could actually reach up into the heavens. Organized, funded, and directed by the government. The Tower of Babel was a government project. It was equivalent to the White House coming out and saying, hey, our technology can let us time travel. The Tower of Babel was a government project that the king specifically wanted to overcome the bounds of being a human by orchestrating, directing the resources of, at that time, the entirety of humanity. You imagine that? The king of Babel was the king of all humans. And what do? They shoot for the stars. Almost kind of literally. They, this technological advance. And we know what happened there. Would God even let us figure out time travel? I mean, I think it's quite clear. He's been very clear that it's possible if we all get together, put our minds to it. So, I think I've made the point. Time travel, I think, is, if you had to pick one concept that would bring humanity as close to godhood as possible, I believe it was time travel. And I think that's going to, I don't know, I believe we are going to watch Beyond the Verse or listen to Beyond the Verse right now. That is what I'm led to say. Before that, I have not watched it. I have not listened to it. We're going to watch it and listen to it now and discover together. I'm going to be scanning the comment section. Sorry, I was ignoring the comment section. I want to catch up with what you guys. But here it is. Beyond the Verse by Gon Shimura. Face Like the Sun. Time travel in the Bible. It shouldn't surprise you.
Welcome to Beyond the Verse, where we dig deeper into Scripture. The Bible is inherently a book of time travel. In fact, what the first line of the Bible in Genesis 1 implies is that the creator of this universe and all of creation is from outside of it. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning tells us that time was the first thing created. Much like a timeline in a video or audio editor, time is the essential dimension by which all other things exist. God created. Here we have no doubts that it was God who created and started time, and that he was the first mover within time. He created the heavens and the earth. The heavens can be referenced to spatial existence, which can only happen against the backdrop of time. And the earth, or eretz, dirt, matter, which can only exist in the confines of spatial existence, which again relies on the existence of time. So notice this stack of time, space, matter written directly into the first verse of the Bible. It emphasizes that God is from outside of our time-space continuum, and that what we can see, measure, and experience physically is just a fraction of all that exists. This notion of God being from outside of time and space is consistent throughout the Bible. In Isaiah 46:10, it says, "I declare the end from the beginning, and ancient times from what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and all my good pleasure I will accomplish." Here we see God isn't predicting the future, he's simply declaring it as already complete from his eternal viewpoint. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 58, it says, "Truly, truly, I tell you," Jesus declared, "before Abraham was born, I am." Many people are familiar with this passage as Jesus asserting his divinity by using the divine name I am, echoing Exodus 3:14. Jesus is declaring that he existed outside of time and before Abraham's earthly timeline. In Revelation 1 verse 8, it says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, who is and was and is to come, the Almighty," emphasizing God's eternal presence, encompassing all of time in a single ever-present state. And in 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8, it says, "Beloved, do not let this one thing escape your notice. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day." This famous passage is a powerful reminder that God's perception of time is radically different, eternally expansive, yet infinitely precise. God is not trapped, as we are, in a sequence of moments. He is eternal, which means he was, is, and is to come. So now that we've established that God is from outside of time, are there any examples in the scriptures where people travel through time? In fact, some researchers suggest that there are. In Acts 8, verses 39 through 40, it says, "When they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord carried Philip away, and the eunuch saw him no more, but went on his way rejoicing. But Philip appeared at Azotus, and traveled through that region, preaching the gospel in all the towns until he came to Caesarea. Here, the Greek word for carried away is harpazo, the same word used in 1 Thessalonians 4:17 to reference the rapture or the catching up. Philip, after baptizing the Ethiopian, vanishes and appears miles away in Azotus. While this may not seem like direct time travel, it can be argued that this type of teleportation event demonstrates the same kind of sovereignty over time and space, consistent with God's claims throughout the Word. In Revelation 4 verse 1, it says, "After this I looked and saw a door standing open in heaven, and the first voice I had heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, 'Come up here, and I will show you what must happen after these things.'" Immediately after this verse, John is shown events across time, past judgments, present heavenly worship, future tribulation, and final restoration. These didn't seem like simple visions, but rather an actual visitation into the unseen realm to see time from the divine perspective. We've covered other individuals in the Bible who were taken up into heaven, like Elijah in 2 Kings 2, and Enoch in Genesis. In the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verses 9 through 10, it says, "As I continued to watch, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. The court was covened, and the books were opened." Here, Daniel clearly was given a vision of the heavenly realms and the end times judgment. We get clarity on this in Daniel 8, verse 17. "So he came near the place where I was standing, and as he approached, I was terrified and fell face down. 'Son of man,' he said to me, 'understand that the vision concerns the time of the end.'" And in Daniel 12, verse 4, it says, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many will roam to and fro, and knowledge will increase." It was clear that what Daniel was being shown didn't make sense in his day, and that the information was meant for another time, perhaps our generation today. Daniel was only shown small parts of this judgment process, and in fact, he fell ill after seeing it. But is it possible that others from the Bible were also taken into heaven to view these eschatological events? This is the theory presented by Gary Stearman in his book, Time Travelers of the Bible: How Hebrew Prophets Shattered the Barriers of Time-Space. In Ezekiel 40, the prophet sees a man with a measuring rod measuring a future city. And in Revelation 11, John also sees a man measuring the temple with a rod. What if they were watching the same event from a different point in time? It clearly demonstrates God's sovereignty over creation and time, as he was able to bring a prophet from the Old Testament to see these visions years later. This type of sovereignty might explain why in Matthew 24, verse 36, it says, "No one knows the day or the hour of Christ's return." And it's true, because for us, we are stuck in the linear timeline. But from God's perspective, the timeline is already complete. The return of Christ isn't someday in the future. From heaven's perspective, it's already written, already declared, already happened. So it's not that the timeline of prophecy is finally unfolding. It's that it's already finished, and we are the ones getting caught up.
Time Travelers of the Bible by Gary Stearman. Have not checked it out, but gonna need to check it out. Have you guys read that one? I mean, we've talked to Gary Stearman, I believe. Gotta see what that guy's up to. Yeah, at the end there is very, very interesting. It sort of harkens to such a core mystery when Jesus uses language like the kingdom of God is at hand, when things are spoken as if they are, when Jesus says it is finished, to our linear experience of time, you'd think, okay, well, it doesn't seem very finished. I'm sitting here living in the fall, experiencing all the crummy bits that Jesus died to set us free from. Of course, Jesus, being the Logos, being the very core operating system of existence, is absolutely outside of time. And not just outside of time. I mean, you try to wrap your head around it. Like, we use these words like outside of time, and we have some sort of ability, by the grace of God, to not imagine what it's like to be outside of time. But as far as we can go is to understand what that concept might represent. We're like 2 or 3 layers deep in sort of the simulacra of being able to even just simply comprehend. Let me pull something up here. This is actually interesting. Again, so weird. This was just out of nowhere. What I was looking up was the word logos. Let me grab this, because in the Bible, logos is what is used in John, the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and logos is that word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, this logos, it was, we hear logos a lot. We hear it talked about. It comes up in sort of academic and research and theological centers. And, for me, I mean, I knew what it was. I'd read it 1,000 times and heard it used to describe. But it's one of these things that is, we can only comprehend a representative of what it actually is. Logic comes from logos, right? Our logic, just sort of the way things are, the system running underneath reality, the thing that allows reality to have any consistency. It's like the operating system on a computer. It's sort of the universal I'm trying not to use the word logic. It's like the universal force or reason. I mean, it's God, it's not just the sort of personal God that we know. It is the force that allows being to even exist, for being to be being instead of non-being. And it's this very foundational, it is the code of the matrix, not the simulation matrix, but the code. It is what scientists are talking about when they're trying to understand what reality is, and it's very difficult for them. They cannot actually go down far enough to quantify logos. Logos is this collection of inexplicable, unexplainable, endlessly shrinking, tinier and tinier bits of data. When they talk about quarks and, particles and these tiny little particles coming out of CERN, they speak about them as particles, as like objects, but really what they're looking at is they're trying to get down to the most basic form of data. Because at least as far as we can tell, physical objects are not really as physical as we think they are. You know, an atom is 99% empty space. When an atom comes against another atom, they're not actually touching. They're just sort of the forces of empty space bumping up against each other. When you're sitting in a chair, they don't actually know why we don't just go right through the chair. If you get 99% empty space, come in contact with 99% empty space, you'd think you would just float right through. But we don't. Because while Logos, the fundamental force of reality, God, can use empty space to make all things real. I mean, goodness gracious, we could go into the craziness of, you know, God speaking reality into existence, the vibration of God's voice, turning nothing into everything, arranging emptiness upon the face of the deep, formless and void, tohu vavohu, the arranging of all things simply through God speaking, and then, thank God, breathing some life into the whole thing. Trips me out, man. I'm getting too tripped out. We're going to take a caller. We're going to see what you guys think about this. I got to let my brain rest for a second. We got a caller in the waiting room. We're going to bring her up in just a second, but another shout out to everybody in the chat. We got one person in the waiting room right now. We had another person. They are gone now. This is a call-in show. So it's not a show unless you call in. If you look at the what is it? If you look at the link, it's a link. It's in the description. Copy paste that link, put it into your browser. It'll ask you a couple questions, put in your name, it'll put you in the back room. We'll bring you up when it's your turn. But right now, it is Modern Day Bible Study's turn. Let's bring her up. Modern Day Bible Study, you are on the air.
Basil, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for calling.
And I would like to thank you and Gons for having the perfect timing for this topic right now.
Isn't it amazing how God does that, huh?
Truly. Yeah, so first thing I would like to start off with is the last song that I had sent you, and actually Psalms, I should say. It was 55, verse 4 through 19. And with the time travel, it is absolutely correct, because I was going through the worst time up in the wilderness, not knowing what to do and only had the Bible as a guide. So the Spirit truly felt that passage that I read, and I happened to be listening to that song that was put into the background as I'm reading it. And I noticed that it said, this song is accompanied by strings, but I was listening to something with trumpets. And then, of course, I go back to Revelation and I think, nope, in this time it needs trumpets. And it just fits so perfectly. So I had to record what I was reading, because it just fit as if we are living in that time that David was feeling. So that was the first thing that I wanted to bring up with time travel. But the Bible truly does have passages where you can read it. And in any moment of time, every passage changes because of truly the time travel of us living the same experiences that others have gone through. So
It's that living logos, you know,
yes.
the fundamental basis of reality, the code that allows being and non-being, God. It's a living thing. So yeah, that's incredible.
Absolutely. And so the title that I have underneath my name is Raiders of the Lost Ark. So last night, I was looking for a free movie to watch, and nothing was hitting home. But all of a sudden, I saw Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I said, you know what? I need a refresher since this is a very popular topic right now. Let's go ahead. It's been a while since I've seen it. So I'm watching the video, and just something is constantly repeating in my head. And it was Trump's Easter speech over and over again. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. So finally, as I'm watching the movie, I bring out my Bible and I was like, you know what? I'm going to look at the numbers. And so I'm searching through numbers and I said, what passage am I looking for? And all of a sudden, I look up 420. Numbers 420. And what it says, they must not come in and see the holy things, even for an instant, or they will die. And as I'm watching Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I started saying that is perfect timing, because maybe that is what Trump was talking about.
Yeah, well, for those who maybe don't remember Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's also a big theme in that film is when the
Yes.
Nazis open up the Ark of the Covenant, everybody melts and turns to skeletons. And in order to avoid the fate, you weren't supposed to look.
Yes.
Close your eyes. And yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the Trump thing, just in case anybody missed that. At the end of Trump's Easter speech, where he says we're, honoring Jesus every day, not just this day, we're bringing religion back. And then he just starts kind of repeating this thing where he says, look at the numbers, look at the spirit, look at the numbers. It's kind of like, okay.
So after reading that passage, because 420 was not only, I'm sorry to say this, but Hitler's birthday, but also
Right.
It was the day that everybody was celebrating Easter.
Yeah.
So I just kind of put two and two together, just led by the Spirit and just allowed things to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. It also kind of parallels what I was talking about with the Tower of Babel, another
Yes.
example of man reaching for the fundamental principles that are really reserved for God. They were able to get at least close enough where God said, okay, that's enough, people, and put the thing down. You talk about time travel too. God is as far as we know right now, the only being who is outside of time, who is not trapped in the linear presentation of time in the way that, we consider it. There can be some blips here and there. Lots of people have had certain experiences. However, yeah, it may be one of those things. Again, if it is indeed the government saying we have time travel or something close to it, there are things that are reserved for God, that looking into them to have mysteries uncovered.
Absolutely.
It seems it's, at least as of yet, there are some things reserved for God himself.
Yes, and I think you brought this up on the last Canary Cry News Talk, is how there's a book about Barron and being with the time traveler Trump and everything. So, whether there is time travel, whether there is people manipulating time, as you said, God has his plan and it has already happened. So one thing I do want to bring up as I'm reading Numbers 420 is it also reminded me of the census, because I was reading through the passages, and this is the passage where Moses and Aaron had to do a census to find the ark servants. And they were going to be from ages 30 to 50 who were going to serve, set up the temple, set up and carry the ark as, for God's purpose. But then I thought of other censuses. I guess that's plural. Yeah. So you had King David, who did a census looking for soldiers, but it says it was a divine displeasure. Now we go to King Herod, who was underneath the ruler of Caesar Augustine, to find and kill the coming Messiah that he has been prophesied. So what it reminded me of was Trump. Didn't he do a census, a mass census during COVID while everyone was at home? But something kept leading me to not be home or to mislead the people that were asking about the census, for I felt it was not proper to give my information.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know. Remember exactly what that was. There is the U.S. Census that happens every 6 years. I don't recall if that fell on COVID. It's possible, but yeah, I mean, censuses
Since I,
are
yeah.
so funny because every census in the history of humanity that has ever been taken has been done with with a reasonable beneficial explanation. Every single one. I don't even care. Even the Nazis making their nasty censuses, they all were justified with, no, 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 we want to help you, we got to make a big list because we want to help and it's going to be great. And you could just go down history. You named a few biblically where it feels like, or at least enough of those censuses end up not being so great that there's like this core distrust in for people that actually, are paying attention. And one that is coming up recently is the media is spinning it a little bit. It's not exactly what RFK is saying, but the media spin on what he is saying is that RFK wants to make a census, take a census, make a list of all the autistic people. And the
Wow.
fact that the mainstream media is sort of spinning this to make it sound like he's trying to make a list of, neurodivergent people or whatever, shows the inherent distrust of all censuses. So,
Yes.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And it seems like the only true census was Moses and Aaron, who were instructed by God to take this to find the ark servants.
Mm.
And I didn't even know that about RFK. Uh, Asking for a census for the autistic, only because I have a few autistic members in my family, and
Hmm.
I feel that there is something telepathic about them because they are very quiet, but they understand what you're feeling. And so if you're frustrated, they see that. And that is why it's very difficult because nobody knows how to communicate with them. And so, quite honestly, I just put music on when I'm around them, and they're able to do any task that is given.
Yeah.
And so it's quite remarkable when we learn how to control our emotions, ignore our feelings, and I'm not going to say think telepathically, but be sympathetic, that our minds are very powerful to something that we have no knowledge of. It is not
Yeah.
of our understanding.
Yeah, that's true. We know so little about that. I have not watched the telepathy tapes, but that's what I hear people telling me about, to watch the telepathy tapes. Apparently, it was a study or something, documentary on autistic children who seem to have some crazy powers going on. Modern day Bible study. I really appreciate you calling in. I'm looking at the waiting room, and this is freaking me out. There's people coming in. And I forgot to mention, I am just running a timer. I'm not putting on an alarm or anything, just for all the callers who are here. But shooting to check in at about 10 minutes of every call. Was there one last thing you wanted to leave us with before we say hi to some other people?
Yes, I won't read it because it's a little long, but I would love if everybody could have their own Bible study and look at Luke 1, verses 46 through 55. And may you all continue to be blessed and in these troubling, changing times.
God bless you. Modern day Bible study. Thank you so much for calling in. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, call back again.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Yeah, the telepathy tapes in the chat. People are saying lots of good things. I need to find some time. There's just something about long form documentary. I find it really hard to sit down and focus, but times are a changing. Times are a changing. But I hear it's crazy. I don't know. I hear there's some people starting to debunk it, but I will say RFK is saying 1 out of 32 kids now are, showing traits of autism. It is interesting. I am not necessarily a, great awakening person or whatever. I mean, something's definitely going on. We're getting towards the end of something, but there is a group of people who, mostly sort of new age types, who are saying, we're in the age of Aquarius. There's a mass awakening. Like the human consciousness is changing. We're waking up to be more spiritual and emotionally connected and telepathic and whatever. And here we are, and the autism rates are going from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 32. Something's going on, and who knows? Maybe it's iPads and vaccines. I don't know. Okay, next up on the list here. Oh yeah, and just thank you for reminding me. I am in an attempt to make sure that everything is done orderly and in proper time. I'm running a little stopwatch on my side where we are shooting for 10 minutes a caller. So next up, we got the one, the only, Mr. Trashman. You are on the air. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, just having fun listening. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's another one of those things. Thursdays, I'm actually starting to kind of look forward to Thursdays now. This is a fun time chatting with y'all.
Oh yeah, I'm just glad it was a light truck today, so I got off early, and I can't think of a better day for it.
Hey, there you go. Glad we could match our schedules finally, buddy.
Oh yeah. She opened me up to a few things. So while she was talking, I got out my Bible and read along. And in the references, right next in Numbers 4:20, it references 1 Samuel 6:19, which reads, "And he smote the men of Bethshemesh, because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. Even even he smote of the people 50,000 and 70 men. And the people lamented, because the Lord had smitten many of the people with the great slaughter," just like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Whoa, that's crazy. First of all, good job coming to the show with your reference Bible open, ready to pop in and bring us to the next level of conversation. Yeah. I mean, gosh, we've even had all that news about the remote viewers. Talk about telepathy tapes and autistic kids or whatever. Then we just had all those stories of the CIA remote viewing the Ark of the Covenant. And also, of course, this brings up, Trump's Ark of the Covenant that he had, some replica made at Mar-a-Lago. Dude, the references are endless. And then at the same time, the Trump White House coming out and saying, "Hey, we have looked into the eyes of God and can manipulate time and space with our technology." It's all adding up, buddy.
Oh, it is. And I mean, did we really win World War II? I mean, after the Nazis, they all came over here. They're scientists, and we just absorbed them. They had the Nazi metal, which could, they say, travel through time, and it disappeared.
Yeah.
Which I read a really good book about, a fictional book about that.
Yeah.
But what if they do have that, and that is what's causing the Mandela effect? People screwing around with history.
Yeah. No, dude, I'm so tripped out, not just with the Mandela effect. I mean, the Mandela effect is interesting because it was kind of one of the first things that kind of started popping off, at least in my career, in the last 12, 13 years, that kind of started introducing people to like, something weird's going on here, something weird. And it's just all gotten crazier and crazier since then. It's like a snowball starting from Mandela effect sort of breaking into the mainstream. And it's just been insane from there. And, on top of that, again, thanks to my job, I have a sort of stupid categorical pile of news events in my brain at all times. You bring up the Nazis after World War II, of course, Project Paperclip coming in, starting NASA. We've got, battles going on right now with NASA and SpaceX, the sort of old guard and the new guard of space. But Argentina also just came out with documents about how many Nazis actually fled to Argentina. Like the whole Hitler's in Argentina thing has just come out. Malay went ahead and just made that official.
Next thing you know, they're going to be saying we got a hollow Earth too. Supposedly, where Hitler went to Antarctica and went to the hollow Earth before he went to Argentina. They say.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. I mean, of course, we know about the Nazi Antarctic bases down there with the Nephilim penguins. It's all coming together. And Hollow Earth still, I mean, this is kind of what gets me a little bit today when people are yelling at me about flat Earth. Like, I get it. I'm there. We were talking about flat Earth before anybody else. We were one of the first. 2015. We did episodes on it. I get it. Okay, flat Earth people, just give me a break. Let me breathe. Hollow Earth, that is a whole nother story, and still very passionate about Admiral Byrd and his discovery down there.
Oh yes, that's a good thing to look into if somebody hasn't looked into that.
Goodness gracious, man. This is again, I mentioned the sort of snowball effect of everything happening, and I've said it before, and I think this is not necessarily a new thought, but I think a lot of us can agree that recently it's getting a little bit out of hand, which is the feeling that time is moving faster and faster and faster.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Right?
I mean, whether it is or, well, time is abstract. It's created by God. It's our perception.
Right.
So the more they bombard us with fear and anxiety through the news, through just people talking and it's in the air, if you're in a constant fight or flight mode, just like whenever something really exciting happens and you feel like you did this awesome thing in slow motion, it's the same type of concept.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They talk about time and they'll say, well, time is the relative movement of matter. They talk about, the electron going around the atom. That's how they got atomic time, is they've based the clock on the amount of revolutions an electron goes around the nucleus of an atom. That's the fundamental measurement of time. And we'll base it all on that because that's that. For something that's supposedly as precise and as steady, the steady march of time, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. There's nothing you can do to, to not be brought along the rivers of time. For something that's supposedly supposed to be so constant and steady, the perception of time is the trippiest, most loosey-goosey experience of being a human, which begs the question, does our consciousness specifically have a direct relation to time? I don't know, but you expand that conversation. Go ahead.
I like to think not. I like to think time, like, okay, so in heaven with God, outside of time, why all these people can go have visions with angels and see each other, like in Zechariah 2 and Ezekiel and John measuring.
Uh-huh.
Just like you were talking about the atoms.
Yeah.
You have this empty space around it. What if your spiritual consciousness, like we're supposed to walk in the spirit, not in the flesh. Right. What if the spirit lies in those empty spaces between the atoms?
Right, right. Yeah, our spirit is like how we navigate time as a dimension. We talk about the three dimensions, width, height, and depth. We can move our bodies, our meat suits are what gets us around in forward, backward, up and down, side to side. But the spirit is the part of us that allows us to move on the fourth dimension being time. That's done at like the spirit level. I mean, everything's working together somehow.
Oh yeah. And like whenever the sun stopped for Joshua and whenever Hezekiah's shadow went backwards, was time manipulated or was the sun manipulated by God?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And goodness gracious, you don't even got to get into missing time for people who have supernatural experiences or alien abductions or UFOs or whatever. I mean, just before the show, I was listening to an interview with a guy, a UFO researcher fella, who experienced the loss of time, and he was on a research mission with his homies, and they were watching him from far away on a uh, heat, heat vision, thermal vision, and he's walking in the forest, and then instantly he is like moves 22 feet or something in the blink of an eye, and they go, "Oh my gosh!" You get him on the radio. "Hey, you just jumped like 22 feet. What happened? What just happened?" And he said, "I don't know. I just walked. I have no idea how I got here." They're like, "Okay, well, we literally just watched you teleport like 20, 30 feet or something." And his experience of that time was just walking. Like, he didn't have an experience of, and they also said he turned into a ball of light and shot across, but his experience was just walking. And I'm like, how many times are we just going about our lives, and from our perspective it looks normal, and from an outsider perspective we're turning into a ball of light and shooting around? I don't know, maybe he's making it up, but it does beg the questions.
Oh yeah, anything is possible with God. Anything.
Amen.
And it and that's what man is trying to recreate. They're trying to bastardize everything that he does.
Yeah, we'd like to
So, I mean,
control it. That's
yeah,
the thing.
and everything that we try to control and don't let God backfire. And this will be the same thing as always. Like, so CERN and the Mandela effect. You've heard of that connection before.
Yeah,
This
I just want
new
to give you
Oh,
sorry,
do what?
just a quick heads up. We're just hitting 11 minutes here, so I
Oh,
want you to give me what you got here, and then we'll save the rest for next time.
I'm gonna fire it off and let you go.
Great, thanks.
We're doing this Stargate thing in Texas.
Yeah.
There is on that they're building that on top of a hadron collider bigger than CERN.
Yes. Right. We're done for. Time
All
and
right.
space. Time and space is going to collapse, and it's all going to happen in Texas. And I will say this: as an American, if humanity is going to destroy the universe by toying with the powers of God, and we deserve the punishment for doing so, I want it to happen in Texas, because that's at least that's something we can talk about in heaven afterwards, buddy. All right. Thank you so much, Trash Man. It's great to hear from you, buddy. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Yeehaw, buddy. Yeehaw. All right, let's just jump into this right now. I'm going to go ahead and reset this little timer here, and we're going to say what's up to the newest knight of the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, and that is Sir Psalm 40. What's going on, buddy?
Hey Basil, what's up?
Not much, man. Just defeating time and space by talking to as many callers as possible.
Yeah. I had you were talking earlier about missing time,
Yeah.
and I had a few I guess I don't know if they would really count as NDEs, near death experiences, but a few severe health situations, crises.
Ooh.
And one in particular, I was like the people I was with, I OD'd on drugs, on heroin,
Oh, fun.
and it was probably about 6 or 7 in the evening, and I had woken up the next night, like later in the night. It was over 24 hours by the time I woke up, but it was like just a complete flash to me. Like it was a single moment,
Right.
and the way that it happened, though, like I did know that I was falling away. You know what I mean? There was a time prior that I was in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror and I wasn't feeling right and I passed out. But right before I passed out, I could like see myself in the mirror, but it looked like I just went straight down, like on an elevator.
Whoa.
And like in retrospect, I guess logically, I'm assuming that I probably just saw myself fall backwards. But this other time where I was out for like 24 hours, I remember I was standing in the kitchen and like there was other people around and there was no mirror, but I remember seeing the same thing. Like I saw myself in front of myself just go straight down, like vertically,
Crazy. So
not like fall
are,
away.
are you unconscious at this time? You're saying you go
Yeah,
unconscious,
yeah, yeah,
or you just
yeah.
lose the time while your body's walking around?
Well, yeah, I was like told that I didn't have a pulse and like I was blue
Oh yeah.
and like
Okay. So
people were
you're
convinced
out.
that I was, yeah, yeah. There was no official like ambulance called any of these times, but
Oh boy.
I can't really tell you what happened, but other people were convinced. And
Yeah, no,
but
buddy.
each
It
time,
sounds like a miracle we still have you with us.
yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's several miracles in my life like that for sure. Yeah, I was haunted for a really long time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it felt like you just blinked out. You were gone and then came back when somebody woke you up. You didn't have some
Yeah.
sort of, you know, excellent
No, no epic.
adventure or something.
Right. No, no, nothing like that.
Crazy, crazy.
And it's weird because like I have had experiences like with astral projection and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
like I don't know, you would at this point when I was doing drugs, I had confessed and like believed in my head in Christ, but I didn't really believe in my heart and care to impress the Lord. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I didn't really care. You know what I mean? I understood and it made sense, but I didn't really care.
yeah. No,
So,
totally.
but I was confessed and like, I had all the Hat Man experiences and like, I was messing with woo-woo crystals and like sigils and like I believed in the supernatural realm and I like commerced with it.
Yeah,
And I confessed Christ and I believed it but I didn't really live it out. And but once I did confess and realize how real he was and like how true his story is and how it's painted all over the Old Testament, like thousands of years before he even came, all that evidence just made me believe and none of that dark stuff ever happened to me again. And in fact, like I said, he literally rose me,
yeah.
from the dead several times.
It's interesting because we've had the conversation before about, doing magic and looking for synchronicities and communing with the supernatural. It's and the sort of joke of it is that at least when I was a kid growing up in the church, there was this weird uh, what's the word? Is this weird friction between it's not real, don't bother, and it's real, stay away from it. And one thing that comes to my mind hearing your story now is why would the Bible tell us not to operate in the sort of in the manner where man harnesses the supernatural, does magic, blah blah blah. And part of it is the Bible is there, and we are called as human beings to live as human beings, to live as man, and to try our hardest to live as the original man was in relationship with God on a regular basis. Adam was experiencing the supernatural all the time, but it was just uh, through his obedience to God and closeness to God, and also, of course, before he ate the apple, it wasn't even in his mind that there was anything outside of his supernatural relationship with God, right? Uh, but to try to wield sort of magical, supernatural, occult forces. An occultist might say, "Hey, this stuff is real. Why would I not do it? Why would I not wield the power that exists?" And I have access. Many of them would say, like, even God wants me to do this because it's there, it's available. Why wouldn't I do it? Well, for me, Yeah, you can get into all that stuff, and crazy stuff can happen. However, it is explicitly outside of God's desire for us on this earth to do so. He created man to live as a man in relationship with him. He did not create man so that man could run away and harness supernatural powers and rebel against, God's will. We were built for a very specific purpose of fellowship with Christ. The Logos, God the Father, and the other the other versions, the other manifestations that God holds in the universe. Um, Talking about the God the Father and the Son there, in case somebody wanted the details. We are made for this specific purpose. And for someone who's out there dabbling and wondering and figuring out, whoa, you can actually uh, mess with supernatural stuff on your own, and you don't need to ask for God's permission to do it. Why wouldn't I? He's got a plan for us, not just for our lives here on earth, but forever, for eternity. And, biblically, once we are in our forever home with God, it is a totally different situation. We are not sort of merely human beings, but we are given a new body, given a new everything, live in a new place and co-reigning and this whole thing. And so it makes nothing but sense that the logic of that wielding the supernatural for our own purposes, it's not for us right now, and it's not the best for us either. It's a sort of what's the word? Uh, I don't know. It's not the fullness of what we are made to do here. And we kind of sacrifice that by going the other way. And I think at least many, if not most, of the people that I have talked to about this sort of thing agree with me. Come out the other side going, "Oh, it's way better to just be in relationship with God, living as he intended man to live."
Yeah, he truly does give a peace beyond all understanding, and that and everything else. It's all in the Bible. I think beyond it not being our purpose to wield these extra supernatural endeavors, it's more than that. It's like sticking the thumb in the eye of God,
Yeah.
because it's like the whole story of where it even originated, whose idea that even originally was for man to know these things. It was an assault on God's creation.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it was a war tactic. This is part of a war propaganda, and so yeah, I think it's a lot more than just beyond our purpose. It may even be it. Who knows what Adam was capable of, while he was properly in relationship with God. But it's
Yeah.
like a
And it,
kid
it
in a tool shed. If your 5-year-old kid is in a tool shed with you, you're not going to let him just use things his way.
right. Yeah. And it extends to technology too, I think. I mean, we know here we don't need to repeat the inexplicable connection and relation between magic and technology and these sorts of things. We've gone over the Tower of Babel and even the Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark. There are some things that we should turn our eyes away from, even if it is flying around us. And I think the technocratic version of that as well is one and the same. I don't know for sure if they are even two separate institutions. We're coming up on 11 minutes here, Psalm 40. Love talking to you, buddy. Do you have anything else you want to bring to the table before we check in with another caller?
I'm thinking good, man. We got a good handful of callers today, huh?
We're charging it, bro. We're doing it. We're doing it
Yeah, yeah.
together.
Yeah, I'll see y'all next week. God
All right,
bless.
buddy. Great to talk to you, buddy. Bye bye.
All right.
Woo! Look at us go. Okie dokie. Let's just jump right into it. Man, I love how everything just connects so well here. Okay, next up on the show, we've got, well, let me check the thing. Yep, we've got Rod. Rod, how are you, buddy? What's going on?
Basil, eternal best buddy Basil. What's
How are
happening?
you, my man? Is this Rod from Millennial Mustard Seed?
Yes.
Yes. What's up, buddy?
I am just on my commute and was able to jump on and join this clubhouse, man. I'm loving what you're doing. And this is the standard, really, is being able to communicate with everybody out there and bringing all of it together. A melting pot of influence that simmers in reverie.
That's right. This is decentralization, man. Our biggest resource as podcasters is the people who sort of come around us, and
Yeah.
it's about time we start getting everybody working. That's what you're doing when you call in. You're working.
All hands on deck.
All hands on deck, buddy. Well, what's
Yeah.
been on your mind?
Well, I mean, just listening to some of the other, people, the things that they brought up, I guess you could say there's a couple things. I like the idea of, the changing, like time, right? And there's three different words in the Greek for time. And man, it opens up the door to some really fascinating questions and interconnected pieces. And I had a near death encounter, which I've talked about on my show a bunch of times. I think I've been requested on a 8, 9 other shows over the years to share this experience that I had. But one of the significant parts is that there was no measurement of time when I was riding the veil. I don't like to tell people I died
Uh huh.
because I didn't come all the way out of my body, but it haunted me. This happened at like 19, 20 years, when I was 19, 20 years old.
Mm,
And it was timeless. When I'm riding this veil, I'm like, it was such a strange thing. And I think about all the Bible verses, like, the end of the age and prophecy being cyclical.
right.
And we have like the ultimate climax of the ages. Are we about to see God flip the script on all of the perverse and wicked and despotic plans of the enemy? Are we going to see him redeem, as he says in the word, all things in the heavens and on the earth and lead into a millennial reign? I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to force feed people this idea, but I'm fascinated by it. Like the way things are going, we're kind of pulling into this place where the veil's being pulled back. More and more people are just, I mean, everyone I've listened to so far, just excellent comments, excellent connections that they're making. And there's just
Right.
so much there. The spaces within the spaces grow. The one guy's like, man, what if the spirit realm is the interface in between the, protons and electrons that move in an elliptical pathway around the nucleus? I wrote
Right.
about that in my book. I literally wrote the spaces within the spaces grow,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And it's this concept of the micro to the macro and then time, our interface with it. So, I mean, Basil, I'm going to pass it back to you with kind of a question. When you go to sleep at night, you're not experiencing time like you do when you're wide awake. And what language are you speaking in? What's your interface when you're dreaming? Or, I mean, are you walking around talking to people in English? Like what is passing it to
Yeah.
you?
I mean, it's totally trippy, dude. It's interesting with dreams. As I try not to bore people with telling my dreams, but there have been seasons, of course, and there were some seasons recently too, where I was just. I mean, it seemed every single night was another sort of epic saga or like epic journey in the chronicles of whatever dream state that I had been in. And it was almost like playing a video game recently where, there would be whole new worlds. I would cover lots of ground. I was going through these almost like
Mm,
levels of a video game. I can only barely remember them now. Um, but yeah, in that period, there was definitely I had some questions, like what exactly is going on here, because
yeah.
it felt like I would live like 3 months in this dream adventure and then just be so confused coming back awake. There was so much, I was praying, just like, okay, God, whatever this is, whatever you're trying to tell me, maybe you're just like giving me a nice, fun, sleepy, like, what's the word, screensaver or something. Like part of me
Yeah.
part of me is just like, oh, dreams are just kind of like a screensaver for your consciousness, and that's fun and that's good. And I'm thankful to play a little video game or something while I sleep. But of course,
Yeah,
nobody can deny just how powerful those sort of dreams can be, man. It's crazy.
it is crazy. Yeah, I mean, the teleportation thing, somebody had commented about somebody that was traveled, I think that was you, Basil, like 20 plus feet, and they teleport, and supposedly they appear to look as a ball of light. And
Yeah.
I'm leaving the state of New Jersey right now. I'm getting ready to cross into Pennsylvania. And everybody remembers New Jersey with all the drones. And there's a
Oh, yeah.
ton of plasmic ball activity reports that come from all over, everywhere.
Wow.
It's not just exclusive to southeastern Pennsylvania or Jersey, but I see some association. There's some connections there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely
I'm
something going on.
I mean, there's yes. It's back to kind of what you were saying before. Like something is going on. We seem to be hurtling towards some new, I don't know, chapter in humanity, and that could be something simple, or it could be something, sort of supernatural. Whether it is, bringing us closer to biblical, Book of Revelation, or if there's something, some other period, whatever before that, or who knows? Who knows? But
Yeah.
like you said, there's like an amplification process, kind of like,
Yes.
with electronics or something. You can start with a certain voltage, but then you arrange things in a certain, in a certain way, and suddenly you can amplify what you started with, and it just goes and goes and goes until it's limited.
Yeah.
And it feels like we have broken past some sort of limiter, and that's just across the board. Whether it's politically, whether it's spiritually, whether it's supernaturally, whether it's UFOs, it's just like somebody cranked the knob up to 11.
Yes.
If it is, if it is some sort of simulation or whatever, it's like they're stress testing the code just to see how like gnarly it could be. And it's crazy because every generation, of course, has had the idea that they were moving into this next new thing and things would never be the same. And we look back now and we think, well, they didn't even know what they were talking about. But there is
Exactly.
really, I mean, it's undeniable what you're saying. It's crazy.
So, Basil, let's look at this perspective real quick. And this is me musing, right? But in the
Sure.
spiritual realm, with the legalities, right? The principalities, powers, rulers, dominions that are specifically over regions. I believe, like, I subscribe to the heart being the seat of the interface, right? Like, we are seated, current tense, in heavenly places with Christ Jesus. Yet I'm in a car doing 72 miles an hour on a highway. Like, how does that make sense, right?
Right, right,
So like the Pope passes, right? And whatever allegiance, and I'm not going to talk bad about Catholics, but I'm not in agreement with the Pope or Catholicism. The
right.
fruit just doesn't taste ripe, you know?
Uh huh.
And so he passes on. Let's just say there's a refiguration in the spirit realm where covenants that were made with that individual who had authority and
Yeah,
recognition and almost idolization, well, definitely idolization from people around the world, you have a reshuffling of events, right? So
yeah,
the spiritual realm is really fascinating to consider. Okay, so it's I'm not going to say that this is like Holy Spirit inspired, but I've been really wrestling with this concept of, are we going to see people that are wrestling with the religiosity or the spirit of Catholicism start to unlock and come out and really start to redefine relationship, redefine what sonship is, and what our identity is, how God really feels about us, who he's called us to be. And so it's just something I've been kind of thinking about. Like, are we about to see the Catholics get redeemed and liberated? Like, all labels aside, we're talking about people here. We're talking about sheep. We're talking about children of God that need to know the truth and that
right.
need love and they need community and they have experiences that they need to get off their chest and somebody to talk to about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Again, you mentioned the sort of geographical dominion of principalities and powers, and we see this quite literally happening, like you said, not only with the new pope coming up. I mean, you're talking about again, even just in the physical realm, but I mean, of course, in the spiritual realm, you're talking about
Yes.
a principality and power level shift, especially with the Catholic Church being all around the world. The Catholic Church being a great example also of a physical or political representation of geographical principalities and powers. I mean, the Catholics went all over the world. They, well, came in contact with everybody. They were a major force in humanity. We are essentially, like in essence, as very foundation, moving into a new spiritual chapter. And you combine that with the fact, I'd been talking about this sort of interesting, what's the word? Not revelation, the resurgence of Christianity. What is a revival? This interesting kind of version of revival we're seeing where more people than ever are becoming Christian in a few different forms. Oh no, he disconnected. Well, I'll wait for him to jump back into the waiting room here, but I'll finish my sentence and we'll see if he can transition back in. We're getting the numbers on just enormous amounts. There he is. I'm going to bring him back on. There he is. You're back.
All right.
What's up, buddy?
Sorry about that. Yep.
No worries. We're getting these numbers on this, some sort of strange version of a revival where people are turning back to Christianity in major ways. And, the numbers really show that Catholicism as a whole has maybe grown the most. From my perspective,
Yes.
I'd seen more people turning to Eastern Orthodox Christianity, but there's some numbers that came out recently that said the majority of new Christians are Catholics. So you have this
Exactly.
moment where an enormous number of new people becoming Catholic at the same time of a principality and power shift with the new Pope. And then you got that on the sort of spiritual transition side. You got Klaus stepping down from the WEF. You've got new principalities and powers stepping up on the sort of globalist, whatever you want to call that. Trump, of course, not to mention. But we're in this objectively, supernaturally, and you can say all sorts of words, whatever. What doesn't matter what definition you want to put to supernatural. We are in a shifting moment that is undeniably going to shift not just the history of the world, but the experience of people now. Our experience of the world as we speak. It's crazy.
It's so cool. It's so well said. Brown Easter bunny, no more white rabbit, right? I mean, it just goes on. It's like a perpetual idea of the signs are all there. Like, we're reading the signs. And it's really interesting. The Bible does talk about those who are the sons of God are led by the Spirit of God. And so it's like we're a community that is experiencing real time the time segment that we've been given. And we're sharpening each other and leaning on each other. And we're not overlooking the power of love that binds all of these gifts together. And so I just really, man, my hat goes off to you guys every single time. I think of you and Gons, what you guys do and what you bring to the table. It's superlative. And so I just love the opportunity to be able to get to chat with you and even, on air today. This is super cool, man. I hope we can get together in the near future and continue to do some really cool stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for calling in. And yes, Millennial Mustard Seed Podcast. Go check it out, folks. I've been on it at least once.
Twice.
And
You were on
twice.
twice. Yeah.
That's right. Twice. And who knows? Maybe we'll find another time coming up here, bud.
Awesome. You
All
guys are
right.
the best, man. Thank you so much. And God
Thanks.
bless everybody listening. Be strong and courageous. Do not let the word of the Lord depart out of your mouth, and he will be with us in all things.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, buddy. Love talking to you. All right. There we go. Rod from the Millennial Mustard Seed Podcast. Go check it out. You can find a couple episodes I'm on. And yeah, like I said, hopefully we'll do another one soon. Okay, look at us. We've been cranking through the things. I do want to apologize. There's been a few people who came into the waiting room and hung out, and looks like they ran out of time or had to go. Or I hope you call back in. The waiting room is always open for you. But this is fun. I'm really glad about how this is working out. We do, technically, it looks like we have one more caller in the waiting room. So let's bring up, just by the way, let's see, what time are we looking at? Oh, we're coming up on, what is this, 2 hours? Coming up on 2 hours. Okay, we're coming towards the end. But we'll take this caller here and see if anybody else jumps in. But we're doing great. Maybe I'll rant about the Easter Bunny and Melania later. Okay. Who do we got? Oh, here we go. We got Be More Busker. You're on the air, buddy. What's up?
Hey Basil, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. Hanging in there on a roll.
Yeah, man. So Klaus is out. He's in some kind of hot water. And
Isn't
now
that
we got
crazy?
this dude that looks like his eye looks like it's been burned with battery acid or something.
Yeah, I can't. I was trying to look and see if this is a permanent thing with this guy or if he just has a burst blood vessel or something.
I don't
What?
know.
Let's see here. I'm gonna pull him up in the background, get his name. Do you know what his name is?
It's a weird name. I can't remember it, but he doesn't he's like talking about water and trying to regulate water and
Oh,
stuff like.
yes. Oh, yeah. No,
And
he's
the
famous
former
for this.
CEO of Nestle, it's just like, come on, man,
Yeah, let me pull it up.
shoot.
Let me pull it up right here. I got his WEF thing open here. Peter Brabeck Letmath. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise. I reject your cookies, WEF website. Yeah, okay. So in the picture of him on the World Economic Forum website, he does not have the crazy eyeball. So that is interesting. They could have edited it in this particular picture. Um, but it is interesting that all of the articles written about this guy stepping up, all of them use the same picture of the guy with his crazy blood red eyeball.
Right.
And nobody thought to go to the WEF forum and get this nice picture of him. So at the very least, I mean, we're pointing out ops here, okay? Here's the op. The op is this guy ascends, and every single news outlet chooses the crazy, scary picture of him. Nobody
Right.
grabs this nice picture. So at least the mainstream or every news outlet we've seen so far wants us to be scared of this weird demon eye man. But you're right. This guy's nuts, dude. He's an Austrian businessman, which, come on, Austria. He's famous for being the head of Nestle, but he's also, been the whatever chairman of the board of the blah 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 for the blah blah blah. I mean, you go down his like list here, and it's so stupid. It's just chairman of the business of Poland, chairman of the advisory board, chairman of the World Economic, chairman of the foundation board, chairman of, he's this guy. He's the chairman apparently of everything. Um,
Everything. Yeah.
and one of them was like the UN save water for everybody
Right.
UN human rights for water. By 2030, everybody will have water and everybody is human and has the right to water. Except for he famously, now Nestle got in a ton of trouble the
That's
past
right.
10 years
That's
for
right.
being evil water demons and
Yep.
stealing
Yep.
people's
Yep.
water. And he comes out, the literal quote is, "It is not a human right to have free water." It's like, great. I mean, it's a literal demon. That a demon would say that. That's what a demon in hell, in the flames, torturing eternal souls for forever, a demon would turn to someone and say, "Oh, you're thirsty? Sorry. Getting water is not a human right. You don't get free water. You're in hell." So this guy is a very freaky dude, man.
It's like the WEF is like some evil kind of Star Trek episode. Like you can see with the picture I put up of Klaus, like he looks like he's got Klingon garb, and
Yes.
then you got this guy with the red eyeball, and it's just like, oh my, it's what's next?
It's crazy. I mean, and the fact that it was not the same time, not the same era, not the same month, not the same week, the same day as the
Right?
Pope dying.
Yep. Yep.
It's like there's some transition just happened, and it's undeniable, buddy. It's crazy.
And there's some sort of connection of 88 with Klaus. I think said
Yep.
something about 88 years of
He
whatever.
says yes. He's going. Excuse me. Whoa. He's going into his 88th year, and yeah, the Pope was 88 when he passed, and it's just crazy. I mean, man, it's been 3 episodes now. I can't stop ranting about it. It's just an
It,
insane. That's how this year is. This year is like every month is the next most insane possible thing to happen that just blows my brain.
I know,
Seriously, I'm
dude.
sitting here like God has cranked up the simulation to just absurd levels.
Yeah, the past 5 years have been definitely trying for I think everyone in
Out of
one
this
way or
world.
another. Not one person is exempt from what has been done to us.
No. No, and it's crazy. People are forgetting. People forget. Like people are forgotten. They don't even remember 5 years ago. They don't even remember what happened. It's really
Right?
scaring me.
I know.
More than any of these actual events, I am more freaked out by the people that I know, the normies in my life, who are just totally check. I mean, talk about lost time. We're
Yep.
talking about lost time and these weird things. There are people who full on have a blank space where COVID was, and they don't remember anything there. And that is terrifying.
I know. It's
I,
like it's always been that way, right?
yeah, right. Yeah.
Almost. It's like
Especially when it comes to like expectations of the government or like how to be treated or like, how to think of other people. They were taught to demonize, whatever, anti-maskers or anti-vaxxers or whatever.
right,
And they don't even think it's like they've always thought that. It's like they feel like it's just an inherent known thing that they were born with, hating certain types of people because of, they want their own rights to choose their medical decisions or whatever. Is people like got some sort of reset. I mean, talk about great reset. It's like a
right.
factory reset button got hit on some, I don't want to be mean, but they're NPC types.
Mhm. Yeah.
You hanging in there?
Unfortunately,
You staying sane about it?
yeah, it's just kind of like I'm dealing with my own kind of stuff with the MS and all that, but when it comes to this, it's just like I can take it. It's fine, but I study it way too much. But like that, what else can I do? I got nothing
Yeah.
else to do now. So I just look into everything that's going on, and it's completely insane. It's been insane since March of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I get it. I totally empathize with you there. It feels like my everything is sort of flooded or saturated with just this understanding of what happened the past 5 years. And it's just
Exactly.
and everything we knew, everything we already knew is just now, getting confirmed by the government or becoming sort of basic knowledge or whatever. Uh, and people are still like totally tuned out of it. It's really wild.
Yeah, and it's crazy because my father, his leg, when he got that procedure, you know what I'm talking about.
Uh huh.
Uh, his leg blew up with blood clots, and it was like huge, like, and he's coughing up blood clots.
Ay, ay, ay.
And thank the Lord, he's still alive. He's still going at
Oh my
79.
gosh.
So hopefully the Lord will keep him going because and my mom's got lung cancer really bad, and my life's kind of in a shambles. But I I look to the Lord and I try to ask the Lord, please, please, please,
Yeah,
and
man.
I think the Lord knows that I'm suffering, but unfortunately, there's no magic button for any of this.
No, man. The question of suffering is really something. This is something actually that I was really impressed when I was looking into Eastern Orthodoxy, just trying to understand what it is, why people are moving to it. And I think other Christian traditions do a great job with this too. But Eastern Orthodox, what I've noticed is they really, really, really dive into sort of the mystery that is human suffering and how it seems so antithetical to how we would understand the love of an eternal creator, you know, well, and the purpose of suffering and the because suffering I have not suffered anything quite as close as you've described that you've had to go through, but I know the suffering in my own life. It seems absolutely random and pointless.
I know,
And
man. Like when you had something like an organ explode or something. Wasn't it your
yeah,
pancreas or not your
yeah,
pancreas?
my
Your
appendix. Yeah,
appendix. That's it. Yeah,
yeah, in
I heard that.
2023.
That just like that made me cringe a little bit because
Yeah,
I can imagine that must be horrible, dude.
it was it
Horrible.
was it was unbelievable. I mean, it's and lots of people have appendicitis and they get their appendix taken out. I had this weird thing where I don't have the proper nerve endings in where the appendix is. So it had actually exploded and just been exploded for a couple days. And so the by the time I noticed it, I was like full septic, like
Oh
full
man.
full gonna die. That's why I was in the hospital for so long. But and as the years go, that was 2023. Basically, 2023 till now, mid 2023 till now, has just kind of been a version of constant suffering, like falling down an up escalator.
Right.
And, is I got to give the Eastern Orthodox props for recognizing the mystery that is suffering. And they, at least from what I've seen and read, it's, there's been so many times in the evangelical church where, the only answer, the conversation kind of stops at like, well, God is making me better, or refined in fire, or there's some mystery, or there's some thing that the suffering that I don't see and that God has planned. And you know uh, in essence, that is as far as you can go. And it goes back to the time travel conversation.
Yeah.
If only we could time travel,
Right.
not only could we maybe understand our circumstance a little bit better at the drop of a hat, by the snap of our fingers, go forward or backward and understand where things are going and where they came from, but also possibly be able to change it if we don't like it. I'm telling you, man, this time travel desire is like it is a product of the fall. It is a bit of Adam's sin in all of us, expressing in this sort of science fiction, technological, want to be as God's way. Because there's almost, okay. This is a general statement. Almost, there is almost no problem in my life that I feel that I couldn't fix with a little bit of time travel,
Right.
or at least negate, just a little bit.
Yeah. To like make it just a little bit better
Just
in
something.
some way, you know.
Yeah. Or even if I can't go back and fix it, I can go forward when it's done and be done with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. That's yeah, like one more thing before I forget.
Yeah, no worries. We're
I
we're past the 10 minutes, so one last
Oh
thing.
shoot, I'm
No, no, no,
sorry.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. Tell me the thing. It's my
Well, I
fault.
was just gonna say, like with the dreaming, I was hearing somebody talking about dreams and like the NDEs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to have such lucid dreams. It was like horrifying,
Oh yeah.
that to the point where like it felt like I literally was there. And
Yeah.
like one time I remember this, not every little bit, but maybe right after I woke up, I remembered every little bit, but not at this point because it's been
Yeah.
so many years. But I remember this dream to this day where I was in this house that I didn't know what it was. It was just a house of some sort. It looked kind of old, I guess. And inside were people from other generations of the world, like different generations, like
Yeah.
1800s, early 1900s, 1970s, 80s, and they're all just at this party in there. And
Oh,
I go out front and sit down on this porch with my sister. She's there too. And I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden, the whole entire house lifts off the foundation of the earth and
whoa.
starts going up to the sky. It's so real. And then I see these like these kind of drone looking things like we're seeing on the news all the time, like going
Uh-huh.
right by me. And it's just so weird. It's I wondered at the time, is that some sort of prophecy?
Interesting.
That that
Interesting.
that one stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, man, that's so relevant. I mean, even the people from all the different time zones, you got some
Yeah.
little time travel party. You got the
Yeah. Exactly,
ascension.
dude.
Yeah, you've
Exactly.
got the lights, the plasma balls. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, like it just it seems so real. I thought, what are these UFOs going right in front of our faces as we're like floating above, sitting still on this porch? And but we're in the sky, and it's just, oh man, that was one that just kind of, it was, I should have PTSD from that one. But
Yeah, well,
there's been worse ones. I mean, I could go on, but I'm not going to.
no, I mean, that certainly speaks, man. I mean, there's definitely something there. And, as funny as it is, the old trope about people not wanting to hear other people's dreams, but, there's a lot of people who are going to hear this. And I think, so the Holy Spirit can definitely give some people some insight or some sort of, some sort of communication or symbology or something. It's really trippy, man. And of course, I mean, Bible says the Lord talks to his prophets in their dreams, and dreams are not to be ignored. So sometimes, I mean, sometimes I'll have a dream like that, and I'll just be like, I don't know what this was, Lord, but I'm gonna try to remember it the best I can. So when the
Yeah,
time comes, I'll remember this, and I'll be like, ah, you told me. I knew you told me. Well,
yeah,
it's great talking to you, B More. Thank you so much for
yeah.
calling in, buddy. It's great to hear from you.
Good times, man. Thanks for having me up.
You betcha. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Whee! Look at us go, folks. We're doing it. That one went a little longer, but that's okay. See, we're loosey goosey. We're having fun. Such value going on. All right, we got one more caller in the waiting room. He has been so patient for so long. I mean, the patience to wait through the waiting room this long. You'll get a reward in heaven for that one. So coming up on the stage here, let's talk to Mitchell. Mitchell, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Can you
Oh,
hear
can
me
you hear?
now?
Woo! Yep, I can hear you. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Baz? It's so good to hear your voice
Yeah,
on my headphones. I don't ever. This thing does not like to work for me. I'm sure I'm not the only one.
yeah, I've heard some things like that. I haven't gone through. I haven't really had too much trouble on my side, but that's how they do these things. We got to figure it out. But so far, so good. Am I hooked up to your headphones? Is that the deal?
Yes, and there does seem to be a little bit of a lag. Just FYI.
Yeah, looks like a little bit of a delay. That could be any number of things. If you wanted to just do it, I don't know where you are, if you're able to just do it on your phone and not the headphones, switch the microphone or something, we could try that. I don't know if the headphones would slow it down or something. But anyways, we can make it through. I'm happy to do whatever you want. What's on your mind?
Yeah, we'll deal with it. No, this same thing happened when I called in with KJ. So it's just a StreamYard issue, I guess. That that and the prince of the power of the air.
Yeah, that's true. You
But
might be
anyway, but
you might be getting some interference, some supernatural interference.
that's what it seems like. It seems like that's been the case in all of my affairs, increasingly so lately. I don't know about you, but it seems to be just a death by a thousand cuts kind of tactic.
Yeah, I
It's
know the
always the little
feeling.
things. But
Well,
yeah,
what's on your
no, man,
mind?
this has been a great. This it's just it's been a great show. There's so much on my mind. I'm I jotted down a bunch of notes as I was listening. From what I could hear from the other callers, just I was just flashing back to so many different things. So many tabs are open in my brain, but uh, some of what I wanted to at least try to grab one of those tabs is just the scripture that came to mind. Some of the things I opened up randomly to Proverbs as you were talking about time, and the first thing that my eyes fell on was, "Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth." And I was just reminded of uh, how I've been trying to control things and schedule things, work wise, to try to make everything line up, and it's so much easier when we just let him take the wheel, and things tend to synchronize themselves, when we just take our hands off of it.
Right, right. Yeah, I have never been a scheduler. If as any guest who has ever been on any podcast that I've hosted can tell you, not much of a scheduler. And I think part of it is due to kind of kind of what you're referring to, which is when I get the urge to really take control of my life, when my algorithm shows me enough hustle culture content, and I, get fired up about grabbing life
Yeah.
by the horns, taking control, making things happen, being productive, being
Hmm.
efficient, making the money, doing the thing. It usually doesn't last. It
Yeah.
usually lasts about 2 or 3 days. But then something always, always, always happens that reminds me sometimes it's a gentle way, sometimes it's a not so gentle way, but the Lord will take the opportunity to remind me that I am not in ultimate control, and I am also not the most qualified to make my life better or more efficient, by the sheer power of my will and my hustle. I think, and to not make light of that message, not make light of the sort of self-deprecation that can come when our schedule doesn't work out, when our work plan doesn't work out, when we fail to meet our own high expectations of ourselves. It's a good opportunity to really take refuge in the Lord, because, like you said, like you read, the Bible is chock a block full of reminders that it doesn't matter how in control we as people want to be or think we are, we will always be reminded that we are not the ones in control of what's going on.
Yes, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful. I get a lot of comfort in when I'm reminded of God's sovereignty. But there's a lot of I have so many questions on when it comes to that. I mean, if they're okay, so God is, he knows the end from the beginning, and that brings up all the questions of predestination and salvation and free will and just all of those blank spots. And I've kind of just just kind of arrived at a point where, you know, there's just things that I'm not gonna know about this side of heaven, and I love I love how I was watching the time travel little mini doc that Gons just put out, and uh, and I was rewinding it over and over just to really cement it in my memory. Some of the things that he was talking about, the references to Enoch and so forth, and uh, and then my notification popped up for Canary Cry News Talk is live, and I was like, awesome. So I just happened to have today off, and I've been running and gunning here lately, like really busy. So trying to work myself out of the debt slave hole, and and I really needed this day just to kind of regroup and organize. And I was, before I got on here, there was so much interference, uh, technically, and like my phone, I got kicked off the StreamYard so many times, and kept reloading and doing all the things. My phone is at 8% right now. It's plugged up and it doesn't want to charge, and just every little thing to try to stop me from talking to you has. But I prayed through it, Baz, and God answered, and it's just so awesome.
Amen, man.
So
I'm so happy
one
to
of the
hear that.
yeah. So one thing I really want to hit on and share is something that Gons included started out his documentary with, which is something very near and dear to me. The connection between Genesis 1 and our current understanding of, the way everything works, our standard model in science, and in in the subject being time, the very first words of the Bible, are in the beginning, and how God created the heaven and the earth, and just how beautifully that encompasses, time and space, like time being the beginning, and heaven being space, and the earth being matter, and how just how do I even put this into words? How at the beginning of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 1, it's like, you know, we're left with so many questions from the 6 days of creation, right? And how all of that gets answered, like, so beautifully and succinctly in the Gospel of John, chapter 1. In the
Mm,
beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and how the Word, the Logos, Jesus Christ, manifested in the flesh, was, God help me with the words. You could, I mean, you could say, go off on the kind of new agey tangent where the word is frequency, right?
mm-hmm.
And all of those things, but the light just, I don't know how to put it into words, but the light, and then when it goes on and it talks about that he was the light, and he was the light of men, and how the first thing that God created and spoke into existence was the light,
Right. Yeah.
and 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 so just making the connection that from eternity to eternity, Jesus Christ was there in the beginning, and he was the word spoken by God, which was the light. Which leads me, you know, to the question: well, does that mean that he was created? Because surely Jesus Christ is not a created being. That would be blasphemy, right? But it's like, no, they were one and the same. They were, God and His Word are inseparable. And I don't know, man. You know what I'm trying to say. If you've been a believer at all for any length of time, like that's one of the first things, the first revelations that I was given was when the light went on about like the 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 revelation of Jesus Christ in the spoken word of God at the very beginning, and then to continue on to like Colossians, in Him all things hold together and have their being. So he's like constantly speaking, and like that's what's holding our entire reality together. All the cells of our body and all like every single thing,
Oh,
and just
absolutely.
bringing all that reality. Yeah, so all of that being brought together gives me like a ton of peace, knowing like that He's got all this under control. There's no reason to fear whatsoever. But for whatever reason, our minds just can't can't stay in that spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, amen, man. I totally know what you mean. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely what the Lord has had on my mind all day. It is what has guided the conversations we've had today. I, I mean, even going to the, I mean, trust me. After I let you go here in a minute, uh, you are gonna send me off on a rant about exactly what you're talking about here, buddy. I mean, God
I
bless
love
you.
my Baz rants, man. Like, get it, brother Baz.
All right, buddy. I am gonna do that. I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna let you go because we're past the 10-minute mark here. I really appreciate your patience, buddy. I believe that the Lord strengthened you to work past these inconveniences, these obstacles that the adversary has been putting in your way, because your words are blessed, brother. I really appreciate you calling in, and I want you to call in again.
I love you guys so much. Keep it up, brother. I'm waiting for the rant.
Thanks, buddy. God bless you. I'll talk to you next time. Yeah, man, this thing about the logos. I'm going to need to go. I'm going to just go ahead and open up your Bible. Everybody, open up your Bibles. Where should we start? I mean, who even knows? Let's start at John 1:1 because, like I said, it was literally just this morning where I was reading something and I came across logos, the word. I mean, not the definition of logos, just the word logos is in something I was reading. I go, I know what logos is. I know what logos is. I've heard about logo. I've talked about logos. I didn't even know why it was my impulse, but I just started going in, looking it up, looking at different things, just to kind of, I don't know, round out. I don't know what God was doing. But of course, that leads us to John 1:1. But, logos in the early Greek, it really came up much earlier. I mean, this was foundational, pre Socratic, sort of philosophical definitions trying to create a word that expressed something that was inexpressible. And in the Bible, John 1:1 says, "In the beginning was the Word," was Logos. And Logos, the Word, was with God, and the Word was God. The Logos was God. In the pre Socratic Greek uh, definition of Logos, it is the very force. And it doesn't describe, it describes it different ways, but primarily either as a force or as a substance. It is the very foundational data, not just that things are made of, that the world is made of, but it's the code, it's the spirit beneath everything, which as I've spoken before about, the different ways, just to get a little theological, little academic for a second, when theologians are talking about God, there are different ways to talk about God. There's different versions of the little g God word. And some examples of this are super being, hyper being, or ground of being. Now, don't worry, this is not going to be on the salvation test, but just to align some terms here. Super being is a God that's just like a human, but much better, like Superman. Think of Superman, that's a super being. Some people think of God as just a really good version of man. Then there's hyper being, which is God that is beyond man entirely, is something much better. In fact, is the best type of entity, but still like an individuated sort of entity. Something, a lot of Christians primarily talk about God in this hyper being sense. But then there's a third type, which is the ground of being, which is that through which anything can exist at all. The very substance of existence is God. Now, some people don't like this version because it can seem a little impersonal, but just think of it as personal. There's no reason why it can't be personal. People have a hard time thinking of it as a personal God because, from our perspective, something must be an sort of individuated personality in order for us to have a relationship with it. And that's good too. I mean, I think God is all sorts of things, is all of these things. But in the context of logos, ground of being, that is the version, that is logos. That is the whatever force or substance that is what necessitates existence at all. And when we think about Jesus, most of the time we think about Jesus, we think about God as a man, a God man. He is a man, 100% man, 100% God. He's man, he's God, he's God man. But John 1:1 gives us this vision that not only was Jesus with God from the beginning, but Jesus is also the Logos. Jesus is not just this individuated figure as a human, taking up a finite amount of space. Jesus's body took up space with a number on it. I'm thinking maybe 185 pounds. Maybe it was down to 160 as he hung on the cross. Maybe 5'8", probably 5'9", maybe. Maybe we'll make him a little taller for ancient times. It's about 5'9". That was Jesus, the man that we know, the super being version of God. But Jesus was also the Logos, the very force that allows existence to exist. And when we think about time necessarily must be made of logos. Not that God is made of time or time is God, but time can only exist, be necessitated, be conceived of because of God, Logos, the ground of being. And Mitch brought up light. I'll try to make a connection here with some stuff we've been talking about recently. This idea of everything being a hologram, like our reality is a hologram. And it's not to say that it's fake. It's not to say that it's, aliens making a hologram. That's not to say any of that. It's to say, out of all the science we've ever had, we still look as deep as we possibly can into a particle, into atoms, into substance. And the only thing we can find is code. is data. That's all that's in there. There's no stuff. They're quite literally finding in CERN, in all the quantum mechanics, that all there is at the very base of it is logos. I mean, that's like crazy. So time itself is, by definition, by necessity, must be made of logos, which is to be in time is to be inhabiting oh gosh, the brain is spiraling. Hold on. Don't spiral. Come back. Come back. It's getting too trippy. Without God, there is no time. And so perhaps, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, looking into these fundamental logos, things like time, where we, our natural bodies, the ones that we have been blessed with in this material realm, the same body that Adam had, he was created for one specific reason, and that was to be in relationship with God, to be subordinate and in relationship with the creator of the universe. Adam was not created to build CERN. He was not created to master the very fabric of space-time by his own power. If there was any mastering of space-time by Adam, it was as a result of being so intimate, so closely aligned to God the Father, the very substance of existence, the thing through which nothing else could even be. If Adam were to somehow manipulate time and space, it is through being so close to the Logos, to God, that time travel would just be an outpouring of God's care for him. Perhaps it was like natural. I don't know. It would happen because the sovereign Lord would let it or will it to happen. But as we yearn for this technological mastering of the universe, if the governments of this world are mobilizing the resources and the manpower that they have access to, just like Nimrod did at Babel, the government project, the political project, and political just means together, the together project of humanity to build a device to control the very logos of time, the data of time, to transcend the very fabric that time is not made of, but that allows time to exist at all, is such a heinous act of hubris. That I don't think it's a very good idea, as much as I'd like it to happen. Now, I will say, I'd be open to drawing so close to the Father, becoming so intimate with the very force that allows being to be, that perhaps time travel becomes, just a side effect of that. That could be fun. That'd be cool. I certainly have my own experiences with things like time travel. That would be preferred. And then the light, Mitchell talking about the light. Back to the holographic thing, holographic universe. What is a hologram? It is light being projected onto a substrate. They have hologram technology right now. This is actually where plasma balls, where they're actually able to create what people refer to as plasma balls, whether they're sentient or not, I don't know. Right now, as we know the technology now, if we wanted to make a plasmatic hologram, we basically shoot two lasers past each other. Now, you shoot a laser, there's nothing in between, like you don't see the red line, right? You just see the dot. Shoot a laser, there's a dot on the floor. You don't see the line in between. Well, in their case, we'll take two lasers, shoot them across from one another to where the beam, which is usually invisible between the laser and the dot on the wall, those beams intersect at a certain angle. And it creates a hologram. This is a fancy version. There's other versions I've talked about, just projecting light on a screen or on an airborne substrate. Perhaps, a military project where you spray aluminum into the sky and then you can shoot a projector onto that aluminum and it looks like aliens are invading. That's one example. But if we're trying to get a little bit more technically savvy, you put these two lasers, you shoot them across from one another where those beams touch, and suddenly, within a high enough energy, you see a point of light, a little plasma ball, a little hologram where those two lasers are meeting each other. And you see that because what you're actually seeing are the particles from one laser bouncing off of the particle of another laser. You have light becoming the substrate to reflect more light, making it look like something is there, when really it's just particles bouncing past each other. You might say, okay, well, there's nothing really there. You're just sort of seeing a reflection. Yeah, you mean like how there's nothing in atoms? You mean how there's nothing in everything? Everything is 99.9999% empty space. There's reflections. All we're really looking at is the reflection of energy off of other energy, kind of like a hologram. Which would make the substance of reality, of that holographic reality, the very basic logos of it is light. Light bouncing off of light. And we see in Scripture, of course, Jesus is the light. God is the light. So it's not, even just on this very basic level, and trust me, I am not a scientist. We very, very much, very just from a basic collection of ideas from what we're told from the Bible and what we're told from practical science, the whole world may very well just be light bouncing off of light. It very well might just be God refracting more God. The very material of existence. Now this brings up another thing that I can already foresee people scoffing at. And this actually, wow, God is doing a great job with this episode. Because you might think, okay, buddy, you're talking about God in a lot of weird ways. You're saying God is bouncing off of God, and that's making reality. And so what if, God bouncing off of God makes the trees? Does that make the trees God? Are we to worship the trees now? Trust me, I've gotten it. I've heard it before. This actually refracts perfectly off of a text message that came in. Of course, we know we're not to worship the creation. We know this. That's not what we're supposed to do. Well, but if the trees have God in them, or if the trees or the animals or the rocks are made of God, then that's very dangerous, because then you'll start worshiping the trees like those crazy hippies at Burning Man or whatever. So we got a text message. There you are. Shout out to area code 785. 785 texted yesterday, says, all I care about is feeding the ducks. God bless you. Thank you. Feeding the ducks, the best royalty-free free music, stock music that comes with StreamYard. 785 says, to whom I tell the random contemplations of my mind. Basil. When exploring the ins and outs of Celtic Christianity, I came across an excerpt in a letter written by the Celtic Briton Pelagius to a friend. Here's that letter. Quote, look at the animals roaming the forest. God's spirit dwells within them. Look at the birds flying across the sky. God's spirit dwells within them. Look at the tiny insects crawling in the grass. God's spirit dwells within them. Look at the fish in the river and the sea. God's spirit dwells within them. There is no creature on earth in whom God is absent. When God pronounced that his creation was good, it was not only that his breath had brought every creature to life. Look, too, at the great trees of the forest. Look even at your crops. God's spirit is present within all plants as well. The presence of God's spirit in all living things is what makes them beautiful. And if we look with God's eyes, nothing on earth is ugly. The text continues. Pelagius has definitely been dragged through the dirt in evangelical circles. But let's put aside doctrinal disputes momentarily. Was creation not spoken/sung into being by our God? If so, are not all living things created by the catalyst of his voice, and thus sustained by his voice and power? How could a living being sustain its own life when it did not create its own life? One may argue that when we look at creation, we are looking at the power of God. We are looking at his song, an extension of God himself, something that belongs to him even still. The event of creation resonates until today. Without such resonance, creation. And I think it got cut off there. And this part here where they say, Pelagius has been dragged through the dirt, the evangelical circles. It is also the evangelicals who I believe in 2016 was dragging me, because I got pushed back for saying something similar in 2016. I don't even remember what I was talking about, but it was just enjoying and expressing the fact that God is in all things. And there's this fear from Christians, that is to say that, if God is in the animals, and if God is in the trees, that's implying that the trees and the animals are worthy of worship. This sort of attempt to resist creeping animism or pantheism. Specifically, pantheism was the charge against me when I was mentioning this exact thing, that, God, he's in everything. But that's kind of too basic. That's just, I can understand that somebody might be triggered. So, this implication that if God is in the trees and the animals, that the animals and trees are worthy of worship, therefore God is not in them, or else we would have to worship them. But we do say that God is present inside of man. He resides within us. We are temples of the Holy Spirit. And yet we agree that man is not to be worshipped. The Bible tells us that it was the breath of God that brought Adam to life. God breathed the life into Adam. So where did other life come from? I mean, did God not breathe life into all the other living things? What is there some other mechanism by which God gave life to living things? I mean, there's no biblical evidence for this. The Bible tells us God breathed and Adam lived. There's no other sort of explanation that, I don't know, God snapped and the animals lived. I mean, he spoke. That's true. But the point is, presumably God breathed his spirit to create life. That is what life is. Life, that's what separates life from non-life. And just how we, therefore, don't worship man, we don't worship ourselves, we don't worship other humans because God is presently inside of all humans. If we're properly ordered, in a properly ordered relationship with God, we are not worshiping man because God is present in man. So notice how the same ideology says that we're to worship nature. I mean, the ideology that says we are to worship nature also presumes we should worship ourselves. Animism, pantheism, worship the trees, worship the animals. They're also the ones saying, God is man, you're a kind of God, you can be like God. I mean, there's obviously that is disordered. And so it stands to reason that God, to bring life, like he did Adam, breathed, created every living thing, which is why we worship the Creator, not the work of the Creator's hands. I thought that was very interesting, Mr. 785. I never read this from Pelagius before, but I imagine that evangelicals would have. Now, I don't know what else is going on with Pelagius. Maybe he was a weirdo. Maybe he was a total crackpot. I have no idea. So I'm not defending all of Pelagius's work or whatever, or thoughts. But in the same way, we're talking about logos, which is the very foundational data that all existence rests upon and is made of. And that logos was with God, and that logos was God. And so if everything is logos, is let me rephrase that. Not everything is logos, but everything is made possible by logos, by God. Everything that is only is because of logos. That does not mean we worship everything. We don't worship time. We don't worship dirt. I mean, some people do. But it's okay to recognize that there is nothing that is. The very idea of existence is 100% entirely predicated on the logos that sustains it. And that's why we focus our worship on God, on the logos, on the principal reason why anything and everything exists. We do not worship the creation. We know this. And if time travel is real, it's a very interesting idea. You know, we say God is outside of time, but it's like even more than that. Like time is part of creation, but it exists on this entirely different perception. We don't perceive it in the same ways. I mean, God is creating in realms of perception that we just barely even begin to understand. And who knows? Like Raiders of the Lost Ark, maybe if we look a little too close, our skin will melt off and we'll turn to skeletons. And then those skeletons will melt. Maybe it's more about living into the original purpose of humanity. And that's relationship with the very ground of being. I think so. I think it's something like that. And I don't know what's going on with this Peter Brabeck-Letmath guy simultaneously stealing everybody's water. I did not think that it would be possible to get a worse replacement than Klaus Schwab, but this guy definitely seems like it. He seems like maybe the one guy who would be worse than Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. I don't know who's going to be the next pope. If the prophecy of the popes comes true, it's going to be the last one. Peter the Roman. There is a Peter in the running for pope. Maybe we'll talk more about that on Monday. There is a guy named Peter who is in the election to become pope. Almost 3 hours. We're almost there at 3 hours, folks. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you spending some time with me. We do have the one, the only Sir Darren out of the Hungry Panda just popped into the waiting room at the last moment like he does, and he's in big, big trouble. So we're going to bring him onto the show for a few minutes, see what's going on. Then I'll let you guys go. Sir Darren, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hi, Basil.
You're just coming in at the last second, huh?
Yep.
Nice. What's
I'll
on your
keep
mind?
it short and sweet.
No worries.
Right at the 33 mark, too.
Perfect.
You were talking about Adam, how God breathed life into Adam. And one thing that I think is interesting is that in the creation story, God spoke everything into existence. And, you know, the very first thing he did was he said, let there be light.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's interesting. I've always asked people this crazy question is, so what produced the light? Because all the other light sources were on different days of creation.
Right. He
And
didn't make the sun and the stars for like another
yeah,
couple days.
and what determined the day?
Right.
What determined the time and the day and everything? So it's just kind of, that's an interesting thought. And then real quick, you know, he breathed life into Adam. One thing that, you know, a lot of people that I've heard too is they say, you know, man is made in the image of God, and animals, you know, man and animals, we have bodies, we have a soul, we have a mind. But the difference between us and the animals and other creation is that we have a spirit. Mm-hmm. And that Adam's spirit, when he was created, was alive with God's spirit. But that when he sinned in the garden, you know, because the serpent said, oh, you won't die. You know, that was the lie, was that you wouldn't die. But Adam did die on that day. God's spirit departed from Adam. And since then, man has always been dead in Adam. And so until Jesus came and was resurrected, that life could not be imparted back to us.
That's interesting. I like
And
the
so,
sound. I like the sound of that.
yeah. And so,
What is the go ahead. You might answer my
so,
question. I'll let you
well,
continue.
like even the example of, if you look at I believe it was the day of Pentecost, where they were in the upper room and they heard the sound of like a wind and they saw the tongues of fire, the Holy Spirit coming upon them. Man without God is dead in our fallen nature through Adam. Like it says in the
Mm-hmm.
Bible, all have sinned and died because of Adam. But it is only through God and through Jesus Christ, is that we now have life, eternal life.
Right.
And so now our lives are written in the book of life through Christ.
Amen.
And so that's why it's interesting that you were talking about God breathed life into Adam. And
Mm-hmm.
he didn't breathe life into the animals necessarily, the same way.
I see where you're coming from. I mean, it's quite obvious. I agree with you, and it's obvious that man was given more. Is essentially, in essence, not just in mechanics, but in essence, was given more. Was made in a different image. Was made in the image of God. It was not, was not deer were not made in the image of God. That plants were not made in the image of God. That sort of thing. And certainly when you say life, yes, there are different calculations, different aspects of life, of even uses of the word life, even in the Bible. Yes, different versions of life. There's a man could be considered dead even though his body is up and walking around. This is certainly something totally different. When and so we, that's something to be able to, I don't know, articulate. I don't know quite how to articulate it. When, um, if it was the breath of God that brought life, let's just say basic mechanical life, because of course we're talking basic mechanical life, and then you can talk about spiritual life, that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
In one way, I mean, the way that it is written and the way that it is taught, we'll say just in Sunday school, is that it was the breath of God that gave Adam's body mechanical, biological life. That is when he woke up. That's when he started walking around. Now, of course, yes, if we talk about spiritual life, if we talk about eternal life, if we talk about, the spiritual being, that is inhabiting the biological machine, yeah, that is something totally different than animals. You're right. They do not have that. I do. I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of any biblical evidence or even extra biblical evidence that animals, plants, things like that also maintain a spiritual congruency outside of the material realm that we currently inhabit, this hologram. Yeah, no, and the Pentecost, that was a big deal. That was part of that was maybe one of the most important transitions for not just the history of humanity as like a physical, biological living being, but this sort of eternal, almost like, yes, returned back to this eternal population of spiritual beings, or given the opportunity to. Of course, we can get into what hell is and what happens there, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I just think it was interesting because you were talking about that. And just again, because I know a lot of people, that seems like a new thing nowadays with the whole metaphysics of everything, trying to figure out, like, are we living in a matrix or this, that?
Yeah.
But what's kind of interesting is just to realize that even just reading through the biblical account of Genesis, you can see that when man was created in such a fascinatingly unique manner as compared to everything else,
Mm-hmm.
that it's just, I guess if anything, it should make us feel amazed that we even exist at all. Like, for all the troubles and hardships we go through, we just need to realize that that was kind of man's downfall, but that, thank goodness, Christ has come and given us every opportunity now to be reconciled to him.
We have a way. A way has been made where before there was no way. We screwed it up the first time. And thank goodness we get a second chance at it. What a waste that would have been. What if God just walked away, was just done with it, went off, tried something else? We're very lucky. We're very lucky in that sense.
Okay. Well, thank you for the extra time.
All right, buddy. No, thank you so much for calling in. It's great to talk to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. There we go, everybody. Look at that. Nice and quick. A nice, quick, and snappy 3.5 hours. No, what was it? It was something. 3 hours and 3 hours, 6 minutes. No problemo. Big shout out to everybody listening on the podcast, the RSS feed, the OGs. You guys are like me, man. I don't think I've ever caught a live broadcast of anything in my life, besides maybe the ball dropping on New Year's Eve. So I am eternally impressed by everybody who comes in, tunes in live, especially those with the courage and the gumption to call in, chat with me. Isn't it incredible how like each call built upon the next one and just everything just circles back around? It's incredible. So thank you. Big props to all the callers. Hope you call in again. I think it was a good idea. Just to set a little timer. We don't need to rush anybody out the door, have a big blaring alarm or anything. But I do like talking to more people all at once. I mean, I also love talking to fewer callers for longer. That's fun. But we're experimenting. We're figuring it out. We're making the show together. That's very fun. Gons is working on a wonderful piece that'll be coming out tomorrow. Enjoy that. We'll be back on Monday with a regular Canary Cry news talk. And let's see. A couple announcements. If you're here, just in case you haven't heard, canarycrymeetups.com. Go over there. There is a meetup on May 3rd in South Carolina. I think it's in North Carolina. But if you're in South Carolina, you should go as well. I think Georgia's around there too somewhere. canarycrymeetups.com. It'll be in Cherryville, North Carolina. So don't miss out. Neha's Ice Cream on the 3rd. I believe it starts at 2. Now, before that, Canarians will be going on a hike. So if you like nature, if you want to go ooh and ah at the things God made for you, which I recommend you do, then you should go on the hike version. That starts a little earlier in the morning. That's at 9 a.m. Let me get this up here for you. Coming meetups. There it is. Look at that. You can see it right there. You know what I didn't do? Well, it's not my job, but somebody didn't put Dame Sarah's email. So I'll say it here. You can email Dame Sarah at dsshadows@gmail.com, I believe, I hope. dsshadows. Just going to double check that this is the right email. I spelled it wrong. There it is. No. Okay. Whoa. No, that's all so wrong. Everything I said was so wrong. Don't listen to me. It's Dame Sarah with an H. Dame Sarah with an H at protonmail.com. Dame Sarah with an H. Sarah. Dame Sarah at protonmail.com. Get in touch. Show up to Cherryville, North Carolina. Neha's Ice Cream, 2 o'clock. Or go on a hike at 9 a.m. It's a 4 to 6 mile hike. It's a blast. This is very important. And y'all put on some more meetups, okay? We got the Houston meetup getting planned right now. We don't plan these. This is up to you. I'll tell you. If you are in or around or near a mid-sized metropolitan city in America, there are Canarians all around you. Pick a time, pick a place, let us know. We'll put it on the website. You can meet up with Canarians around you. And let me know. I had a couple of responses on the text message list. If you would be open or interested to receive a text message if there was a meetup going on in your area. I do have the ability to filter these numbers to the state or location in which they are located. And if you wanted to get a little text message when a meetup goes up near you, I can do that. Let me know what you think. We've got a couple people saying, yes, please do so. Nobody's saying don't do it yet. So make yourself heard if you want to be heard. Big news. Of course, we're on the value for value model. We don't take any money from corporations, commies, cartels. You know this. 100% kept alive by the graciousness, the generosity of our excellent producers coming in with their time, their talent, or their treasure. Do you get value from any of this? Do you have any value to give? Yes, you do. You've got time. You've got talent. Perhaps you've got treasure. You get to pick. Support the show. You can go to canarycry.support. One of the greatest ways to support the show on a regular basis. Big ol' shout out to all of our monthly producers who sign up to support us on a monthly basis. We would not be alive if it weren't for them, and you can join them. One of the favorites is to join the Canary Cry Supply Drop, canarycrysupply.com, where you support the show for $33.33 a month. Then every quarter, we send you a big package full of cool stuff created just for you, designed and packaged and sent by Canarians. This also sustains Canarian families when you do this. And in the next supply drop, which will be coming in a month or so, in the next supply drop, you will get your very own pristine, brand new Gons Prayer Hat. No joke. Come and get it. The Gons Prayer Hat, famous for hugging the head of one of the biggest, smartest brains in French Christian podcasting for over a decade now. That's right, the hat that was worn while Age of Deceit 1, 2, and 3. Think of the synapses. I'm not saying that this hat will make you a genius, fringy documentary maker, but it worked for Gons. That's all I'm going to say. So if you want to get your hands on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, go to canarycrysupply.com. You will get a Gons Prayer Hat. That's fun. See anything else? Yeah, I don't know. That's about it. All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Yeah. No, I don't have a list of things. I have no idea what I'm supposed to pitch here. That's it. Support the show. Produce the show. Time, talent, treasure. Are you an artist? Make some art. For this show, we need some we need some Canary Cry Clubhouse art. We have this beautiful Canary Cry call-in logo. But we could have some fun with Canary Cry Clubhouse. That could be fun. Maybe are you a video editor? You could graphic designer, make us a little intro. Make us a song, Canary Cry Clubhouse song. whatever it is. I don't currently use any spreadsheets for this show, but that's the way you could help us out with your time. Help us out with back-end processes. Help us keep track of all these spreadsheets. There's too many spreadsheets. I don't know. You know what's missing? I can't believe I forgot this. This is why it doesn't feel right. I never know. I never know what to do at the end because I don't play Feeding the Ducks. Feeding the Ducks is what gives me the spiritual power to end the show. Everybody's favorite royalty-free stock music that comes with StreamYard. A staple of Canary Clubhouse, a staple of Basil's Bunker, a staple of really any show that I do solo. Why? Because it's royalty-free, it's stock, and there's just a button right here. All I gotta do is push it, bring some good vibes. Hang in there, everybody. We're gonna make it through this year. I will say again, this is your daily reminder. Focus up. Focus up. There's nothing else to figure out. We're done figuring things out. We've figured everything out. It's 2025. We know what's happening. We know where we're going. We know what it's looking like. Next year's going to be totally different. The world will change. We got a new pope coming. We got a new WEF coming. Everything's about to change. Get yourself right. Back to the garden, baby. Get close with God. Turn from sin. Get in the Bible. Pursue virtue. Do whatever it is you're called to do. There is no more time. Go do it now. Don't not do it. Do it. There's nothing else to do. Go do it now. I'm very proud of you. This is Canary Clubhouse. Make sure to tune in again. But until then, think outside the cage.